The Democrats have deployed Barack Obama to scold black men for their support of Donald Trump. I kid you not. Obama comes out and he doesn't want to say it explicitly, but he was like, I'm not seeing the enthusiasm. Is it because you don't want to vote for women? It's because Donald Trump is making huge inroads with black males, and that is extremely detrimental to Democrats. But I got to be honest, man, I warned about this a while ago, and a lot of these leftists, they don't want to hear these liberals. I said, I think in this country, there are people who just won't vote for a woman. And they called me sexist for saying that. And I'm like, that's your argument. Intrinsic sexism comes from the left, not the right. But anyway, here's where we're at. So we'll be talking about that whole thing. It's very, very funny. And we got a video. We also have this incredible, I don't know if this is a real ad for Kamala, but it's like, men support Kamala. And there's like guys that are just like, I'm not afraid of women, so I'm going to vote for one. And we've seen this already. They tried doing that white dudes for Harris campaign where they were talking about how real men are going to vote for a woman. So we'll talk about that. Donald Trump is calling for the death penalty for illegal immigrants who kill cops. He's stepping things up. He's got some tax breaks for you. And then depending on where we go, maybe we'll talk about aliens because it's Friday night. It's fun. And there's some new secret information being leaked about, it's silly, but actually it's pretty crazy. New reports of what's called, I forgot what it's called. It's a program where the government is allowed to lie to the public. And it's being exposed by a whistleblower, so we'll talk about all that stuff. Before we get started, my friends, today's episode of Timcast IRL is brought to you by Cast Brew Coffee. Head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee, because look at Alex Stein's face without it. He is screaming in desperate need of this coffee. And you don't want to be like him, so you want to go to Cast Brew. You want to grab a bag of Rise with Roberto Jr. or Stand Your Grounds, perhaps a regular old Colombian roast. They're all pretty good. I drink Appalachian Nights every morning. So it's delicious. And we have Ian's graphene dream. His dreams come true, and he's got coffee for you. Also, head over to boonieshq.com and click shop, because I know everybody really wanted their boobies board. It is a skateboard that says the boobies with a picture of a blue-footed booby bird. And for some reason, people love it. But I don't blame you, because I do too. And then we've also got Step on Snack and Find Out. Mr. Bocus, rest in peace. The Tim Pool Rooster Board. And for those of you that believe women's sports should be for women, you can buy the Taylor Silverman Pro Model, because she is a skateboarder who competed, and males were in the competition with her. She stood up and said she didn't believe this was right, and they canceled her over it. But now she's got a board you can buy. Also, head over to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member to support our work directly, because we can't do this without you. If you think the show should continue to exist, then we need you to become a member. Every day we fight the fake news, we call out the lies, and sometimes we get things wrong, but we do try our best, and we want to bring on an eclectic group of individuals with crazy thoughts and opinions. If you think it's worth it, timcast.com, become a member, support everything we do. But also don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, share the show with your friends. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a good review. Give us 5 stars. It really does help. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Avi Yemini.
Hey, yo, mate.
Who are you? What do you do?
Avi, Aussie. I don't know. What do? I work for Rebel News.
Just an Australian guy. He showed up. We don't know what's going on.
I know. I got lost. Tonight's actually Yom Kippur as a Jew. I think it's the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. I saw my comments were full of people condemning me for
working,
not being at synagogue. But it is the Day of Atonement, and I think, to be honest, I've got nothing to atone for.
Is there any leeway for doing important work that can help save?
This is the one day that most Jews actually keep. So it is really naughty that I'm here. But
oh, wow.
I think
blasphemer.
Yeah, that's right. But
well, we appreciate you're here. It should be fun. Yeah,
it'll be good.
Right on. Phil's hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Hello, sir.
Hi, dude. Welcome back, Phil.
Thank you.
I'm Ian Crossland, back from Los Angeles shooting a film, and I'm happy to be here. What's up, Hannah Claire?
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm happy to be here as well. Let's get started.
Here's the big story of the day, and man, talk about lack thereof, but we got some. Obama, in blunt terms, tells black men to get over their reluctance to support Harris. It's a bit more than that. I mean, he's scolding black men, being like, why aren't you going to do it? What are you doing? Kamala's got concepts of plan. She's got a plan. So Democrats have deployed Obama. They had to do it. So apparently right now, Donald Trump is making huge inroads with black men. Not so much women, but this improvement is It's apocalyptic for Kamala Harris, who's supposed to be this female of color candidate who's supposed to get these demographics. At least that's the Democrat messaging. And it's not working out. I got to say, with the current betting odds, Donald Trump is up 9.2 in the aggregate betting odds. He's up 11 points on Polymarket. I mean, he's up 11 points on PointsBet. He's up 9 on BWin. It's looking pretty good for Donald Trump, especially if Trump's winning over black men to the point where they got to send Obama out to try and win them back, which is not going to work, by the way. It's looking pretty good. What do you think?
It does seem like he's conceding. His face is he's demoralized. That's the way I looked at that video when I saw it.
Obama?
Yeah, he looks defeated.
I think the J.D. Vance far superior to Tim Walz. Like, kind of put the nail in the board on this one. Like that ticket of Trump Vance is so much better than the other two. I was gonna say weirdos, but like Kamala and Tim Walz.
Just say it. You know you want to.
You know, those two strange choices for presidential material. It's not quite. Then you
Big
got J.D.
quality
Vance, who's like
difference,
super
for sure.
legit.
I mean, I really think that like when they decided to pick Tim Walz, they looked at him and said, "Oh, a white guy, so that will work." But they didn't think critically about what he is like, what his positions are, and Obama is now trying to translate this into an anti-woman thing, right? He's saying,
so weird.
You're not going to vote for her because you're anti-woman. You know, you're saying all these other reasons, but that's not really it. You're just biased." And I think that is this gaslighting technique we're seeing over and over again with Democrats this cycle. Not that they don't do it all the time, but like in particular right now, if black men were to go to Obama directly and say, "I'm concerned about the economy," Kamala Harris just said she wouldn't change anything about the Biden administration. And in response, Obama would say, "No, you just don't like her because she's a woman." I mean, they are unable to hear their voters, and they're really using fear and shame to try and corral votes. I mean, Trump is gaining among black men. He is down among white men. So he has the potential to both gain with black men and also improve with white men and really secure victory. It does not seem like Kamala Harris is going to make the inroads she needs. And so the margins in this specific demographic is much tighter for her and maybe impossible to overcome.
I got an email from the Democratic National Committee earlier at 7:43 p.m., just 20 minutes ago. And it starts off, "We don't want to alarm you, but fear, fear, fear. Be alarmed, be scared. The campaign of fear just contacted me."
That's typical.
Just to clarify, we call that in the industry, I mean this seriously, a sense of urgency. That's what it's actually called. So
Everyone doesn't.
everyone does it. It's a very, very it's
effective
in fundraising and sales.
It can shock you, but I think people have fear fatigue right now. Like Trump's not running a campaign of fear at the moment. He's
strongly disagree that people have fear fatigue. That's a constant with people. The idea that just like Tim said, it's about building a sense of urgency. And I don't think that people have a fear fatigue because I think that they're the voting block that they're targeting, they're not actually looking to make them afraid, as in to tap into a feeling of indignation, like the whole the Kamala Harris campaign focusing on women and stuff like that. They're looking to make people feel like they have been done wrong, which is the whole the Democrats playbook is to look for people that feel like they've been victimized and get them to vote for the Democrats. I don't think that Tim Walz or J.D. Vance honestly has much effect on who people will vote for. I still believe that people vote top ticket first. So it's Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, and I think the reason that Kamala Harris is falling apart is because Donald Trump and his campaign continue to go on every single platform that they possibly can. He's done a bunch of different town halls and stuff. He's going to be doing a town hall just for women with Fox News, and he's going out there and talking to people, whereas Kamala Harris continues to perform badly in all of the places that she goes. Whenever she's talking, she is not making headway, and she still continues to cater to the same groups. And when she tries to reach out to other groups, it looks awkward and out of place, which we'll talk about the video today. But she's not doing a good and it's her campaign as well.
And her media blitz isn't
terrible.
doing anything better, which is interesting because I think part of the media blitz strategy was to just put her out there, and so everyone would get kind of muddled with the nonsense that she was saying. There wouldn't be one interview and then several days for the media to pick it apart. They kind of got it all out of the way, and now we can't say that she's never done any interviews because she did them all at once. I disagree in one sense. I think that there is a fear fatigue in America, and I think the hurricanes are really making that contrast acute. This is the fourth anti-Trump campaign the DNC has put on, and he's a known quantity. You can't really make him scary at this point. They tried to with J.D. Vance. They were like, look, he hates women and cats and, whatever else. But they aren't able to really sell that either. And so in some sense, having this hurricane where people are actually fearful. I just looked at a story today where 11 members of a family in North Carolina were just found dead in their home in the wreckage. I mean, the contrast between the manufactured, you must be fearful of this, Trump being reinstated as president because I guess last time was so bad. Like, this fake fear doesn't translate to the real fear Americans are feeling, especially in the last couple of weeks. And so they are starting to turn away from this, you must comply, they're going to take everything from you, because they're looking at things that have actually destroyed
But I think
lives.
Obama has it all wrong, because I actually reckon they've spent the last 4 years convincing Democrats that real women are actually men. So maybe Democrats, maybe the black community actually thinks Trump is the woman and they're getting behind the woman.
Maybe. Let me play this clip. This is Charlie Kirk posted this.
Communities is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running.
Whoa.
Blowing smoke up his own ass. But it's true.
No, I mean,
I
Defeated.
also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes
That she caused by
Joy
locking him
from
up.
those experiences.
Right.
Who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
I think the most important takeaway is that he said, we are not seeing the turnout that we saw with my run. And a lot of people, the talking point that we've seen, there was an article in the Daily Mail that there were some Democrats, they did a man on the street thing, asked some people on the street, who you voting for? They said Kamala. And they asked him, do you think Kamala can win? And the response was, it's starting to feel like Obama. Joy, right? That's the word they're using. Obama's telling you right now, Obama is only coming out because they need the big guns. A former president, a popular president, to go out and talk to people, to beg them to please go vote, because they know the turnout is down. And it is not like his administration. They don't need Obama if they're winning. They need him when they're not winning.
Obama's charisma is non-transferable. Like, people love Barack Obama. He's very good at speaking, but it doesn't transfer to other candidates. You know, I don't think it definitely didn't transfer to Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. It didn't transfer to Joe Biden. The only reason that Joe Biden won is because it was a novel situation with COVID and all of the shadow campaign things going on. It's not that. It's just that Barack Obama's popularity isn't going to transfer. And one more thing, he's talking about, like, you know, he's talking to black men, trying to get black men to vote for Kamala Harris. What is it that Kamala Harris offers any men? The Democrats have gone all in on hating men. And they know that they have a problem with men. They've been doing it for at least 15 years. And men are, especially young men, are finally like, I'm tired. I don't care if you call me names. I'm not voting for people that hate me. And you're not going to be able to convince young men that the Democrats don't hate you, when every single time that a woman says anything, you have to say, well, we have to defer to women. We have to defer to women, blah, blah, blah. You're just not going to be able to beat that stigma off with 4 weeks left. She should have been, if they were actually serious about getting rid of this stigma, they should have been working to get rid of it 2 years ago or a year ago. Maybe then it wouldn't be coming back to bite them in the ass. But now they're never going to beat that rap. And it's probably going to take multiple decades, well, at least a decade, before they could convince young men that the Democrats don't hate them. Because first you have to convince women not to hate young men,
right.
or at least progressive women. You have to convince left-leaning women to not hate young men.
But they have the white men for Harris, don't they? Isn't that a group, white men?
Yes, you're right. It is, but it goes beyond white men. It is men in general. He's talking to black men, and they're falling, or they're not falling, but they're flipping for Trump. Hispanic men are flipping for Trump. It's not about.
I look, those white men for Trump. I'm not convinced they're men.
No, I agree completely.
White men for Trump, you're not convinced.
Sorry, white men for Harris.
I completely agree.
The thing is, Obama's message is effectively like, if you're not going to support Harris, I think you're a bad black man.
Yeah.
I don't think that's particularly motivating.
No.
right?
That's not the normal Obama. That's not the charismatic Obama that.
No, this is like semi-stern Obama, who's also like, I am better than you. And I think that that's not something, men generally, but maybe black men especially, want to hear from this guy. It's interesting because the numbers bear out that black women are more supportive. And this is true, I think, in not like if it's just men and women generally, regardless of race. But black women tend to be supportive of Harris and black men are not as supportive of Harris. And so the question is like, you're targeting this minority group, black men, and telling them that they are not good enough if they don't comply with what you want. And that doesn't seem like it's a very masculine appeal to me. It doesn't seem like it's, a very empathetic appeal to constantly be saying like, you don't know what you're talking about and you're just doing this because you're bigoted. Like, this is what men have been told for a long time now, and at a certain point, you're not going to win favoritism with
He
them.
reminds me of like my mum when I was a teenager, like the guilt trip. It was the final. This is the final plea. I've got nothing
really
left.
To me, like emotional manipulation.
I'm defeated. We've lost. Come on, guys. You're going to make Dad really unhappy if you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how it feels to me.
I agree.
Sluggish. It's not like for what Kamala Harris should have done, and what inspires people to seize a leader and want a leader is for this hurricane in Florida. She should have been out there. Joe Biden really should have been out there too, empathizing with the people of Florida. Maybe you're going to lose the state. That's the point. You do what you can for people that can't do anything for you. That's the sign of greatness. And they were nowhere to be seen.
That's it right there. These are swing states leaning Trump, and they probably thought, we are in a tight race with a month to go. And if we go do disaster relief right now, we're earning favor with people we know we're going to lose the state anyway. So that's why they reprioritize or they deprioritize. Now, eventually they did go there, but it wasn't priority number one. And I think, Ian, you make a good point.
Because it was Obama in 2007. He would have been talking about them and talking about helping the people of Florida. That was all he would have been talking about for like a week. Because he truly cares about, like, at least at that point of his life. And I think he's an empathetic dude with like, I think he's is altruistic, but was co-opted by the deep state as in his presidency, big time. But he truly cared about people, which is why they supported him.
I'm good at pretending to care. I think he's a great, like his first speech, I think it was in Egypt. I remember watching that and going, this guy, like he spoke so well, made you think he cared. But then when you broke down what he said, he was never actually saying anything.
I don't think it's fair to say that Barack Obama is altruistic. I don't call Trump altruistic. I think Trump cares about people. I think Barack Obama cares about people. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that these are either are some glorious saint or whatever come to save us. I think Trump is better than Barack Obama. I think Trump cares more than Obama.
Obama went in office and he said, when he got into office, my favorite president from the past was Abraham Lincoln. And when he left office, he said, my favorite president from the past is Teddy Roosevelt. So he lost that altruism during his presidency. He was ready to take a bullet for the revolution. And then at some point, big business got a hold of him and he's like, I'd rather live. I'd rather see my kids grow up.
You think that's what happened to Obama?
Yeah. He plaintively said that Abraham Lincoln was his hero going into the office.
But look at his career. I mean, he's a guy who gets elected to the Senate. And then I remember this when he first got elected because it was confusing to me. They asked him right away, you're going to run for president. And I was like, what? He's a freshman. He's not even in the Senate yet. He just got elected. He was a community organizer. And then all of a sudden, he never even finished his term. He just instantly becomes president. And then, of course, there was a scandal in Illinois where they sold, quote unquote, the seat Blagojevich went to jail for it, which I think he's saying he was set up or whatever, but that's a whole other story.
Trump pardoned him in the end.
Right, that was funny. Yeah, but I never saw Obama as anybody who cared about anything. I mean, the dude is just, he goes in and he's war, drones, expansion.
Well,
it was no different than Bush.
In the very beginning, people think, I can fix the world if I'm the president, give me the power. And then they get there and like, oh, this is how it works. Like Michelle, his wife, was like, let's do the Let's Move campaign. It's all about cutting sugar out of people's diet. They start to do this campaign. The sugar industry comes to them and they're like, this is Katie Couric's documentary, Fed Up, which you should watch. And the sugar industry's like, okay, you know what? Let's not make it about sugar. Let's make it Let's Move about exercise. Let's not demonize sugar. So Michelle, for whatever happened behind the scenes, is like, okay,
I'll tell you
not
what,
demonize sugar.
I'll tell you what happened behind the scenes. What year was that? That Let's Move.
We should watch that. It's like 2011 or 2010, something like that.
Right. So this is the first
maybe?
term, and the sugar industry goes and sits down with Barack Obama, and the guy drops a folder and he says, Barack, we appreciate what the missus is trying to do with get people to lose weight. Right now, the sugar industry represents, insert 200,000 jobs, 10 million jobs in this country. You get the first lady to start telling people to drop the sugar, you are going to see all of these industries take an economic hit. You are going to see these people lose their jobs. You will not win again in 2012, and people will lose their jobs and suffer. So what we think the correct path is, people shouldn't be sedentary. You can eat sugar as long as you're working out. Why don't we change this? And then they went, man, that's a good point.
Yeah, utilitarian argument. He's the president. Your job really is about the economy too. I understand.
It's economic addictions that often what we end up seeing, especially with government bureaucracy, is, look, they're going to go to Trump. He gets elected and Trump's going to say, I want to fire them all. Just get them out. And they're going to be like, that's going to reduce the economy by 0.73% when you fire all these people, and the surrounding economic areas are going to falter. A lot of people, I'll give you a really interesting example. There's better examples in the United States. We have military base towns. I went to Wellington. I think the city is in New Zealand. It's Wellington, right?
Yep.
Auckland and Wellington. And I asked, I love asking when I go to a city, what is the industry of the city? How is this city a city? Because there has to be a core industry there. So for the Rust Belt in the United States, it was auto manufacturing, industrial work and stuff. And I went to Wellington and I asked them, and they said government. It was the taxes of the people of New Zealand being by force taken to Wellington that funds Wellington. So it could really be anywhere.
To be fair, isn't DC? Would DC be?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
But it's probably every capital.
And that's my point. When Donald Trump says we're going to move this building or fire these people, they're going to come to him and say, Washington, D.C. as a city is going to lose 100,000 people over the course of 2 years if you do this. Then they're going to lose an additional 200,000 a year later when all the subsequent coffee shops and restaurants can't sustain themselves because they don't have the business if you fire these people. Donald Trump's going to say, and? With people like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, they go, I get it. We want economic growth, and they get addicted to these machines. I think one of the things the deep state hated about Donald Trump is he did not care. He's like, look, like Ron Paul, not exactly like Ron Paul, but a little bit. The attitude is we can't just stay on this system. We have to stop giving people money in bureaucratic positions, and there's no excuse. The excuse is, but we'll go through withdrawal. We'll have economic crises. Figure it out. But we have to stop the bleed. This money is just being spent on garbage, and it's bad for all of us.
Yeah, I think you saw that with Obama bailing out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in 2008 during that bubble
It's exactly
explosion.
right. They go to them and they say the auto industry, the housing market, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Was that Fannie Mae, right?
Fannie Mae. Yeah.
They're basically saying you will see an economic crisis that will define your presidency, and you will never get reelected, and blah blah blah. And Obama just says, "Okay, what do we have to do?" And it's the addiction. It's the same thing with Afghanistan and Iraq. They went to them and said, I know we want to get out and we should have never gone in, but if we leave now, oh, geez, and then these presidents just say, keep on trucking. And what they think they can do is like this Let's Move campaign is let's make leeway, let's make moves where we can, and you can't. Trump comes in and says, nope, we're changing it. And they're like, but you're pulling out the bottom Jenga block. And he's like, don't care. You can't keep doing this. Everything's getting worse. Sooner or later, someone's got to put their foot down and say, it's going to suck, but we're doing the work.
So to tie this in, whether or not Obama was truly altruistic, I got that vibe in the beginning. I don't know if he really was or not, but he seemed like he was like, we're going to pull the Jenga block out. And then when he got in, he's like, oh, I can't pull that Jenga block. Yeah. But like, that's the energy that will get you elected that Kamala does not even remotely even touch the vicinity of.
Okay, let's jump to this clip and let's talk about the energy that Kamala has. Does Kamala have the energy of Barack Obama? Boy, not even 1/100th. This video has gone viral, and I'm going to say before we play it, I believe it's probably fake, and I can't imagine this is a real ad for Kamala Harris. I hope you enjoy it. You probably won't, but well, you'll laugh.
It's good.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough
didn't
to
like that, you're
deadlift
not.
500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
You want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions.
Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women.
Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Goodwill Hunting.
West Side Story.
That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
Why do you assume it's fake? I think I've seen official.
It's got the man up, get involved vote. Like,
Okay, that part.
It does say
But
at the
the actual,
bottom.
it says not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Okay.
But
the actual content itself,
right, it's
doesn't-
intended. It's. I think it's actually intended to support Kamala Harris. But I'm saying, like, come on, did somebody make this as like a false flag Kamala Harris ad because it's so awful? I feel like Kamala's share of the black male vote is declining further now, having seen this
Because they're sexist.
No, just because it's so bad. I mean,
You're sexist. You don't like that clip.
I'd have voted. I supported Tulsi Gabbard, and so you know what makes me not want to support someone like Kamala Harris? It's the insincerity and the cringe.
At the end of that, if it was Kamala going, "I'm Kamala Harris," and what the was that? Like that would be.
win.
I would be.
Yeah,
like,
I'd actually.
If it
I'd
ended
support
with
that.
Kamala being like, "This
Man
is
up,
the
guys.
cringiest thing I've ever
Man
seen."
up.
Be men.
self-aware. I thought, okay, look, I got a little bit of a lisp. I go, I don't push my teeth together and go like the way they told me to, but like those guys had lisps. Like they're like, I valued this, and I'm like, okay, it's not super manly. The lisp you could at least fix with like editing or something, or get dudes that don't have minor lisps, unless it's supposed to be a joke.
Okay, men. Wait. First, I'll ask Hannah Claire. When was the last time you cried watching a movie? Like honestly,
I don't know.
can't remember.
Like I don't know, maybe 2 years ago.
Do you know what movie it might have been?
No, but I don't watch a lot of movies.
Okay. Men.
When was the last time you cried reading the news?
Well,
Some of the hurricane stuff is brutal.
I cried a couple
But-
nights ago.
But men. When was the last time you cried watching a movie? Anybody?
Probably like within the last 3 years.
I think I might have cried when I watched Hachiko with Richard Gere. Maybe.
Interstellar had some sad parts.
Yeah, I cried during that.
I didn't cry at
Near
Interstellar.
the end of that, at your
And in
house in Jersey.
Interstellar, I was a little bit like, But even still, that gave me cancer. That was horrible. And if that convinces you, you're not a man.
I saw you
I
laugh when you
think-
talking about the donuts you liked. You
I
were
think
like,
there's
The way the guy in the orange shirt was sitting, I'm like, dude.
I think there's only one acceptable time for a man to cry, and that's when their dog dies.
of course,
Look, I mean,
I'm kidding, by the way, but
the whole
Nah, I'm with you. Our cat died, and I hated cats. I didn't even think I liked the thing. I love my
Yeah.
dog. I thought I didn't really have a connection to the cat, and then we had to put it down with the kids, and
Brutal.
I teared up for that.
I think the last time I cried was when Mr. Bocas died. Yeah. I was with him there when we brought him in front of the chickens and laid him down, and he got to look at them, and his eyes opened up, and he was looking at the chickens, and it was a beautiful moment. And then he went.
It's acceptable for men to have and express emotions, but you honestly probably shouldn't express them in front of your family or in front of your girlfriend or your wife, Like, that's a time when a man should go ahead and be alone, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I need a minute. You go ahead and you let a little bit out, and then you go ahead and collect yourself, and then you come back to your family or whatever. But like, you should not cry to your wife unless your mom dies.
So what's the argument for that? Because it like shows weakness or it's unattractive or what?
No, because honestly, because if you can't keep yourself together, like keep composure, then you seem like you're not competent. And that's one of the things that people look to men for, the competence. If you seem like you can't keep yourself together in a situation that's stressful, then people are going to be like, it's not about, oh, you're weak. It's about your inability to deal with a stressful situation. And again, it's fine to have emotions. Go and take your time. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're around other people, or if you're around your wife or your woman, if you intend to be the leader of your family, then you shouldn't be crying to your mother unless like your dad dies, your mom dies, those kind of things, the dog maybe, but otherwise, like, don't cry about a movie in front of your girlfriend, because she will leave you.
But unless the dog dies in the movie, in any circumstance. Because like I wept when I watched John Wick.
But is it
like,
worth the risk?
The whole time John Wick was on, I just cried the entire 2 hours. Because as soon as it started, they killed the dog, and I'm like, I'm kidding.
Can't get past it.
I'm kidding, by the way, but I will say, like, depending on the context, I will shut a movie off if they kill a dog.
That's fine.
Like, they're not really killing the dog, but if it's like, if the dog dies heroically, I'll be like, you get that bad guy. But if like they kill a dog, I'll be like, that's bad taste.
Did you see Old Yeller? I've never seen it. I hear it was sad.
Yeah, but Old Yeller is like, the dog had rabies.
I didn't know that.
And it's like, you have no choice.
I think with crying,
that's a
like,
sad story.
if you cry, just let it happen. But if you go to someone else and be like, make me feel better, then you're coming off as really weak. Like, you've got to just let it happen.
I think that there is like a point to, it's important for men to be able to express emotions and also regulate their emotions. Like, we all know guys who fly off the handle in anger, right?
Yes.
In publicly. And that's, to me, as bad as if you were constantly crying and falling apart. Like, there is a dignity in being able to control your emotions. And I will say, to Phil's point, like, if you're freaking out about every little thing to your like wife or girlfriend or whatever else, like, you constantly need your mom to call you, get support, like, yeah, that's not super attractive. But I do think that for women, like, if you are with a strong man and you are the only one who is privileged to the inner circle of his emotions, like, that is also a like position of honor in your relationship. The thing about this script, and if it's written by men to make fun of these men, then they're doing a great job. Otherwise, to me, it is written by woke progressive women who are like, well, men need to get in touch with their feminine side, and they need to like go to therapy all the time, and they need to work through all these things. It's like what they think they want in a man who knows how to express their emotions. And I think that's actually because they're around very few truly masculine men who are comfortable with their emotions.
I got correction. This is a really good point. We got a super chat from Jeddine. I teared up during Sound of Freedom. Yeah, the intro to Sound of Freedom, I was tearing up pretty hard. That movie is epic. But it's been out for a minute, so just so you know, the beginning, and it's rough. It's documenting a kidnapping of children from a dad. It's so brutal, dude. It's hard to watch without crying. The guy is trying to get his daughters a modeling gig. He's really excited. He brings them in, and then they kidnap the daughters for sex trafficking, and he's losing his mind. It's brutal to watch.
That kind of stuff obviously is perfectly fine to express yourself, but like,
you gotta get angry.
I mean, that should be one of the things that you feel. But the idea that anything that they say there is actually about masculinity, that shows that they don't know anything about masculinity. Masculinity at it, especially, and I don't like to say positive or toxic masculinity, because it's all about how you are able to control your emotions and control yourself. There is nothing less masculine than not having control of over your faculties, right? That's why when you see masculine men, thinking about stoic men, not men that don't have feelings, but men that control themselves, that have their bodies and their mind under their own control. That's masculinity. Right. So that isn't lashing out and hurting people. That cannot be considered toxic masculinity. It's having the ability to control yourself until the situation is appropriate. That's masculine.
That's something that'll happen if I'm crying. I'll make sure that I'll stop and then blow my nose and get it all out, because I don't want to get sick from it. I'm controlling myself. I'll let it happen. I'll let the tears come out. I'll make sure that they drain out the eyes because I'm still in control of myself. But I almost want to allow it to happen. But then I'll make sure I fix my posture and blow all the crap out and clean my face so it doesn't get like oxidized because I'm in control.
I got to be honest. I don't know that I cry enough to ever think about it that way.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be funny.
To be honest, I did not expect to be coming on this show to talk about men crying.
Well,
I'm about to cry.
It's because you're not in touch with being a real man, and you're not going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Look, you're over here crying when you put your cat down. Like you're obviously aware of this as a man.
That was one time, and I remember I felt like, oh God, like, and I was with my wife and kids, and it like a tear just came out. And I think
like one masculine tear. I get you.
It came out like full flex on the way out.
Sweat out the
thing is, I think you have sons at all. Like
I have 2 sons and 2 daughters.
So there is a level of like you have to be an example of how to be able to be like, yes, this is a very sad moment.
I just didn't think about it. I couldn't
without also being like, I have flown off the handle and I can't control myself.
But even to get past the crying part, right? Like the guy that's sloppy fat, that dude is not in control of his life.
Right.
That is not masculine.
Yeah.
You cannot be a sloppy fat guy and be considered.
Yeah. But what was the thing about having the morbidly obese guy say he ate carburetors for breakfast?
I
thought that was in poor taste because they're making fun of him for being fat.
The guys that had like the bad posture, that were crossing their legs, that had body language that communicated that they were not confident. That's not masculine. And these are things that can't be called toxic masculinity. I don't care what
I don't mind
says.
I don't mind a fat dude that makes fun of himself for being fat.
There's nothing wrong with being fat or being overweight, but if you're that fat, you're not a man.
No,
I disagree. I think there is something wrong with being overweight.
No.
I just think the appropriate response is encouragement and positive attitude for people that need help in their lives. Like Lizzo's losing a lot of weight.
That's
and
great.
She's so cool. I'm really excited. Nothing but positive words for her. She blocked me because I criticized her over the flute thing, but that's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but
Did you cry about it?
No. I thought about crying, but then I thought it would be in poor taste because my girlfriend was in the room.
my point being, masculinity, the core of masculinity is about being in control of yourself and having the ability to know yourself and being able to control yourself. And I think that nothing about that says anything about masculinity.
I think about that with
it's
alcohol.
It's all superficial masculine. I can build a carburetor. I'm not afraid of doing what my wife tells me.
If you have to posture as masculine, you're probably not that masculine.
Exactly.
Honest question. Which vehicles still use carburetors? Like tractors?
Some, yeah. I mean, and if you build muscle cars, or if you like old vehicles, then that makes sense. But I mean, look, man, if you say, "Hey, I gotta go get a Chilton's book," people look at you like you got a penis growing out of your head.
Dude, as you were saying, like about masculine being in control, I've been thinking about like drinking alcohol and drugs, weed, and like Adderall and all that crap. Like, if you feel like you need a chemical then you're not in control of yourself, and that's like I feel very out of control and not masculine when I'm drunk. I don't like doing it. I haven't touched it in a month and a half or something.
I mean, I quit drinking years ago.
Now you guys are getting personal. Is it because I'm Australian?
I don't know. It's because this is a big component of the election right now.
Drinking.
Tim Walz is launching this man campaign. The White Dudes for Harris commercial where they're like, "Are you a man who's scared to vote for a woman? Get over it."
It's all superficial garbage. It's not going to convince any men, probably because it's written by women or not actually masculine men.
Yo, it'd be absolutely hilarious if it's a redonkulous landslide. Like Donald Trump wins 100%, and then it's just the nation realizes literally nobody will vote for a woman.
I mean, I don't think that no one will vote for a woman because, and to be honest with you, if you want to see an example of a good woman leader, look, it was way back in the 80s when Thatcher ran the UK. She was considered the Iron Lady. She stood up to the communists. She was hard. And she did the job the way that a leader should because she was a leader. And it's not about being a man or a woman. It's about being a leader.
Yeah.
You can be a woman leader. Historically, there have been more women that have started wars, more queens that have started wars than actual kings. So like the idea that women can't lead, I don't agree with that. But the idea that someone is just automatically should get the position because they check the right boxes, I think Americans will reject that.
I see what Phil is saying with the kings and the queens thing. It's that the kings didn't have the emotional intelligence that when the conflict was starting to realize it was such a big deal and that everyone should become actively hostile.
Is that an official,
I like where you're going.
Official thing that queens have started more wars than kings? I never heard that.
I don't know the numbers, but I believe that's the case.
Because they have emotional intelligence.
Yeah. They know that it has to.
It's a Ryan Long bit.
They have to override the way they feel.
Look, the Democrats are running a "you're not voting for this woman because you're bigoted and mean men" campaign, when the reality is they just picked a bad woman.
Yeah.
It's not this woman. And that's okay, right? Like, they're not always going to be 10 out of 10. In this case, you picked maybe a 2 out of 10. But I don't think that this idea that you're going to scare men or anyone into voting for her by the idea that you might be bigoted is realistic. I mean, there are plenty of female elected officials in government right now to prove that all kinds of people will vote for women. Just Kamala Harris is the bad choice. And that's kind of the DNC's fault, you know?
Yeah, and it was the same thing with Hillary Clinton. Look, Hillary Clinton was the establishment, and we kind of reached a point as a society where we didn't want to see the machine in charge again. There was enough people that were like, we don't want to see this person who behaves as if she's entitled to it and as if it's her turn. We don't want to. And that's part of why Donald Trump won. It was her own hubris. She didn't go to, she didn't visit PA. She didn't visit the Rust Belt and stuff. So there's plenty of blame that she can take. But like at the end of the day, if you put up a bad candidate, they're going to lose. They're likely to lose. And you have to do some real electioneering to prevent them from losing, which is what I think happened in 2020.
Yeah. Let's jump to this story from the Post-Millennial. Trump vows to invoke Operation Aurora to deal with Venezuelan gangs, calls for the death penalty for migrants that kill Americans and police. Trump said he would target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. Trump has announced that upon taking office, he will invoke what he called Operation Aurora. He did this, I believe he was speaking at a rally in the Colorado city of Aurora, which has been dealing with the gang violence from Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Trump began saying that the effort was on behalf of those who have lost their lives to violence caused by gang members from Tren de Aragua and illegal immigrants who have come over the border to do harm to American communities. He brought a local resident up onto the stage who had shared footage of her home in Aurora, notably her door. She has multiple locks and blocks to prevent people from coming in, but still people knock on her door, she said in a viral clip, and she's scared people could get in. So Trump talks a big game. I mean, do you really think that if he gets in, we're going to see these mass deportations and the rounding up of criminal gangs, or is it just going to be, is it bluster?
Well, the United States is not super federally empowered, so he'd be up against local governments, and there'd probably be a lot of pushback in certain sanctuary places where they're like, hey, local government first, which is their right in the United States. So he may be able to do some of it, but it's not El Salvador. He's not Bukele. He's not going to be able to send out the feds and round everything up everywhere. He's going to have a lot of.
I think the challenge will definitely be sort of blue states or sanctuary cities, right? I mean, I'm sure there will be plenty of red states where law enforcement is like, yeah, we're happy to start assisting with the mass deportation of people who we know who are here illegally, who are committing crimes. Because that's sort of the way Trump has always led off. Like, we're going to start there and then we're going to keep going, right? Get rid of the illegals who are already criminals first. But, if that's aware enough and we have enough nonprofits in the U.S. that are sort of going to immigrant communities saying you should move to San Francisco because they'll protect you there, it becomes sort of this battle between the will of local police forces and the governors to a certain extent. Now, immigration and the negative impacts of illegal immigration is a mainstream conversation in this election in the way that it never has been before, especially, last year or the year or last cycle or the cycle before. So in some ways, I wonder if going into, let's say, midterms in 2026, if some of these Democratic-led cities, Democratic governor-led cities or states will look at this and say, actually, this isn't the hit to my popularity that some people would have said 4 years ago, right? Like, they'll look back at this and say, actually, people feel like this is a warranted action.
I don't know if that I agree with calling for the death penalty. First of all, I oppose the death penalty. I don't know that I agree with Trump calling for the death penalty here. I think he's trying to sound strong.
I read on the internet today that you don't, that you're
that's right. Because if you watch, this is the weirdest thing I'll add to. I don't understand how I can literally debate Matt Walsh on this show about the death penalty. It was a great conversation, and he made some great points and the challenges of how you deal with criminal justice. And it's like, I can say 5,000 times I oppose the death penalty, and they take one out of context clip and then just say, this proves, no matter what Tim has ever said, that he actually does support the death penalty. I'm like, hold on, man. Like, shouldn't these people be happy that I go on this show whenever we talk about it and say, here's why it's wrong and I don't like the death penalty? but they don't care about any of that. But I digress. Without getting into that, my point was, I think Trump is trying to come off as very strong on this. He's saying he wants the death penalty for migrants that kill Americans because he's signaling to Americans, you matter more.
That's what generally I feel like Trump does. He's
right.
He's kind of the dude in the pub that says what you're thinking, says what everyone's thinking. Nobody wants to say it, and he says it in the harshest kind of way you can to really cut deep and make people go, oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We have a massive problem with immigration, and let's just promise we're going to do something about it. But does it really mean he's going to be able to or even try to invoke?
Yeah, I don't see this as a reality. I really don't. I think Trump probably shouldn't have gone there, because what they're trying to do, and they will try to do, is when Trump begins to deport criminal gangs and illegal immigrants, as he should and needs to, this country is already dealing with way too much, they're going to try and use as much World War II imagery as possible to invoke those emotions. Trump's going to have law enforcement arresting a migrant, and then they're going to show it next to a black and white photo of a Jew being rounded up or something like that, and they're going to claim Trump is Hitler 2.0. So him coming out and saying something like this is it's not going to happen. I doubt it will happen. I don't think it should happen, but they're going to use it against him and claim, see, look, he's going to...
When are they going to use it against him? Like now, in the lead up to the election?
Absolutely. And they'll twist it to the most extreme imaginable. And that's kind of what, not to make it about myself, but again, we go on this show and I will fervently be like, the institution of the death penalty I think is wrong. Here's why. And then it takes one out of context clip for the left to just pretend like I've always...
but does it matter? Like in your case or even in Trump's case, does it matter now if they jump on that? Really?
My point is that there's going to be a lot of people who don't know what Trump is all about. And Democrats are going to take this and they're going to make a commercial saying Donald Trump has vowed to become a dictator and kill migrants. That's what they're going to say. And then Trump can't sue for defamation because they're going to play the semantic game, and then they're going to use that as fear mongering to manipulate people. I don't know if they go that far, but people are going to say that stuff already.
What was his quote exactly? Did you catch it in the post-millennial?
Well, here you go.
I'm announcing today that upon taking office, we will have an Operation Aurora at the federal level. To expedite the removals of these savage gangs, and I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Think of that. 1798. This was put there. 1798. That's a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it was.
To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. Who would have ever thought that a president or a future president would ever have to stand here and say such things? Who would think that that's even possible to have to do? So many things are changed in the last 4 years, but that's the state of our country now after Kamala and Joe Biden have just absolutely destroyed our country. We're a country in tremendous distress. We're a failing country. We're laughed at all over the world. We will send elite squads of ICE, Border Patrol, and federal law enforcement officers to hunt down, arrest, and deport every last illegal alien gang member until there is not a single one left in this country. And if they come back into our country, they will be told it is an automatic 10-year sentence in jail with no possibility of parole.
Wow.
And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
You're those years, man.
That's just, he's basically saying any migrant that is convicted of murder.
That's right. Yeah, so I disagree with the death penalty for a lot of reasons. We don't need to get into that debate. But do you hear the cheering for that statement? Look, man, I got to tell you. I'm going to tell you a story. I lived in Florida. I was down in the Redlands, just outside of Miami. And it gives you perspective. We lived in this 5-acre property. We had one night where we were all hanging out. I don't know if it was like midnight or something. We were making pizzas. When all of a sudden we saw, it's a 5-acre property, so it was narrow. It goes back pretty far. Somebody with a light. Jumped the fence, a 6-foot fence covered in vines and trees and coconuts and whatever else. Somebody jumped in. And we had heard stories that there were home invasions and murders already. And so that's like a big wake-up call. So some other stuff happened there. I'll wrap that up. That's kind of the point. Seeing something like that, we had heard from the neighbors that there was a home invasion and some guy was murdered. He was upstairs in his taking a shower. He gets out of the shower and he hears rustling. So he walks down the stairs in his towel, and on the stairs, they just point a gun, boom, kill him, shot him in the chest. And sure enough, you ask the locals, who were these guys? Illegal immigrants. They were illegal immigrants who came here and they were robbing his house, take his stuff, and they killed him. And I thought to myself, this is why people who are in rural and conservative areas, or rural areas are more conservative. You don't have police a minute away. And a minute maybe even be too long in some of these cities as well. But I went to a Trump rally, and I was talking to a woman who was an independent voter. She had never voted before. This was in Fort Lauderdale, where Trump was doing a rally. And then she told similar stories, that she was not really political, didn't care all that much, but then someone she knew was killed by an illegal immigrant.
Can I ask you, does your argument against death penalty also apply to a non?
Yes.
He's not talking about he's talking about non-citizens.
Yeah. No,
the government couldn't abuse it against American citizens.
I already have a problem with U.S. drone strikes and all of these things, right? So if we're all going to, but I'm not so naive to say that in wartime and defense people don't die, and it's I told Matt Walsh.
But imagine the deterrent. Like, do you think you're going to get many gang members coming here and returning and then committing murder?
The 10-year prison sentence with no possibility of parole is a bold statement, if you can pull that off. Death penalty would probably only scare non-criminals, illegal immigrants. So I think a lot of the gangs...
Is that not good as well?
I think deterrent is good. I don't like the institution. And there is an interesting point about, we want the message of, if you commit a crime of an atrocity, and they're very extreme crimes that must be committed, like regular murder doesn't qualify, then you will be put to death. We want that to, as a message to people, like, you'll pay the ultimate price if you dare cross us. The challenge there is, of course, I think the institution is flawed and is bad, and I don't like it. There's a big argument there. But I understand the point that at the inverse is, if you outright say, we will do nothing, you end up with Chicago. And so I'm not advocating for the death penalty in any sense of the imagination. I'm saying that we had Michael Franzese on the show. He's a former captain in one of the crime families. They call it crime families. He said the family. He said we shouldn't call it the crime family. And I asked him if this country was better off with the mafia. And the reason why is, I said, you see these videos of these guys smashing a car into a bodega, running in and just robbing everything. These videos of two guys going and just beating a shop clerk and stabbing him, and then he stabs him back. If the families were still in charge, would that happen? And he's like, no, it would never happen. We would never allow that. And it's funny. When you have the mafia in charge, there's order. Why? Because the mafia doesn't want to lose money. But these roving bands of gangs do whatever they want. So I'm not advocating for the mafia, but it's a fair point to say, when the mafia was shaking down bodegas for protection money, they could certainly use some protection now, and they're not getting it.
To your point, Sean, Actual Justice Warrior, says this a lot, and he's totally right. Poverty does not create crime, but crime does create poverty. If you do not have a system in place to prevent crime, you will not get investment. You will not have jobs. You will have flight of wealth. If you have if you can't protect people's property, then they will go elsewhere. And that means that the area that whatever you're talking about, you're going to have people that don't have work, don't have jobs, and you'll have a compounding problem of crime on top of poverty. So you absolutely have to have a system that protects private property. That's the core, that's the very basis of our system. People don't realize it because they think that it's the government does a bunch of things. It's supposed to be providing services and blah, blah, blah. The government must, and that's local and federal, but the government must protect private property. And if you don't protect private property, you're not going to have a functioning society, because you can't have markets unless you can't have markets that people will invest in unless people know that their investment is protected. So if your society doesn't allow for private security to protect private property, or if the government itself doesn't protect private property, you will have a degradation of your society until you end up with Detroit in its worst, form.
Do you support what Trump is saying here?
I'm against the death penalty because the government can't do anything. Go to the DMV. You want those people killing people? No. I think there are.
You think there's a moral problem?
Make you wait
No.
20
My
lines,
my
20
problem
years
is.
too.
Yeah, you're right. It's incredible. There's no moral problem with killing people that need killing. There is absolutely people that deserve to die. The problem is that the death penalty kills innocent people. And it always has.
And right, my argument specifically is people who deserve to die are people who are this is in law. Someone pulls a gun on someone else about to kill them. You have an affirmative defense of, protecting your life or the life of others. Someone's about to egregiously harm a child in various ways.
Yep.
Then you have a legal right to defend yourself and others. So, I've had this argument with a lot of people. Like, right, I understand in self-defense, because people try to conflate death penalty with self-defense. Like, if someone was going to kill somebody, wouldn't you defend? I'm like, well, I hope I never experience that moment. But if there is an evil, murderous person, a terrorist or otherwise, I will do what I have to do to save lives. Mm-hmm. And that does include using lethal force against someone who is about to kill other people. But that's in the law. We all recognize you have a right to do that. The problem I have with the death penalty is that Kamala Harris is going to walk up to you and say, trust me, this person deserves to die. And I would be like, I'm not interested.
That applies to an American citizen. That wouldn't be a problem when you're talking about.
Absolutely, it would.
Why?
Just because a tourist comes to this country looking, so let's just say you get a guy who comes from Honduras legally, and he's
talking about illegal. I guess you'd have to argue that they're illegal first.
If he's saying
he's talking about illegal,
because I believe he said, let's play the clip again. Let's just make sure I get it right.
And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
So perhaps we can say he really meant illegal immigrant, a person who broke the law and entered the country. I'd still take issue with that. Like, dude, some 40-year-old woman who runs in with her child is breaking the law, and I look down upon that. I can actually respect to a certain degree the risk taking for the American dream, or at least for the land of prosperity. But you are spitting in our face. You are breaking the laws. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that action combined with killing someone else warrants the death penalty. I don't think there should be a death penalty at all. But my point is, the death penalty as it exists today, if you murder someone in cold blood, you don't even get a death penalty for that. There has to be extenuating circumstances where you've met a certain criteria. So I don't like the idea that we're pushing it that far. It's just I think it's a slippery slope. I think it's going to result in innocent people losing their lives. Yep. I think it's going to result in waves of dissent and disorder in government. I think that when you get to the point where I'll put it this way, I think it's logically ineffective in terms of strategic governance. Donald Trump implementing a plan like that will give weapons to his detractors to convince people that he's crossed the line. You're gonna see this popping up all over the place. As I mentioned, photos of Donald Trump comparing with Hitler and using any kind of deportation, or even this statement, I guarantee you right now, is circulating among the left of him aggressively saying, "And I am calling," and they're putting it black and white, and they're tinting it red, and they're zooming in on his face. And they're using that to terrify people and get them to be radicalized.
Dude, he didn't even say illegal migrants.
Right,
he said
migrants.
What is going on with our world that with the guy, the front runner for president, just called for the death penalty for migrants?
Who kill American citizens?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not just saying kill them at point blank.
Now let's try and break this down because
that's not.
Let's just steelman this.
The death penalty for people that have committed crimes.
I think the point of it is a deterrent.
I get the deterrence.
But I don't know that it is. But let's steelman what Trump said. It is not that he's saying it. I do not believe it is fair to say, based on what Trump's intentions are, that if a 40-year-old illegal immigrant woman is driving a car and then, passes out and
car accident,
hits somebody, or like runs a stop sign and hits somebody, you don't get the death penalty for that. You get in trouble for blowing a stop sign and killing somebody for sure. I don't think Trump saying someone like that is going to get the death penalty. The left will claim he is because they don't care what his intention is. They care what they can squeeze out of
or a legal immigrant. According to what he said, you can really only take people at their word. I think he intended to say illegal immigrant. A legal immigrant got their green card. They're here. They get into a car accident. A person dies. Now he's saying he wants the death penalty.
I can't.
And I don't.
There's no way he's saying that. But I get what you're arguing. But there's no way he's saying that. And I think
left will claim he is.
But is that effective? Like, are people? I don't know. Are people in America still falling for that old trick?
Absolutely.
If they read it in the news without context, they might.
I think
People
the same
still read
people
the
who
news.
fell for it before fall for it again, but it's not that radical. I mean, Trump
Also,
is
the
the
people
known
that want
quantity.
to, that want to believe it.
That's the thing. Like, it's just confirmation bias for people who already hate Trump. I don't think there's a new. There may be one or two, but I just really don't think there's this mass, this huge pool of American voters who don't know about Trump, who haven't heard that he's horrible and racist and whatever else. What is actually, and this is a little bit different from the death penalty conversation, but what actually stands out to me about this rally more than anything else is the fact that Trump is giving specific promises, right? Like, you don't have to like this as a suggestion, but he is like, here is exactly the operation we're going to launch. I have named it. Here are the consequences. Whereas Kamala Harris has given us what? The term opportunity economy. She said that she's not for price controls, but maybe also she is. Like, she speaks in riddles and she traffics in vague promises. And it's such a stark contrast. Like, you don't have to like what Trump is saying. On the other hand, he is giving specific, deliverable, measurable goals for his administration, where she's sort of like performing in smoke.
And I want to clarify for everybody. No one here is insinuating that Donald Trump is literally saying that a migrant woman who came here on a tourist visa who gets in a car accident should be put to death. We're saying the left is going to weaponize that against him in that way. Watch out for it.
Also, the crazy thing, how he did say a migrant that kills someone. So
yeah, he did. I think the
and
word.
then-
He could,
and then
I
the
think he
crowd-
could have tightened up the way he worded that.
That's Trump.
But having said all this, like, I've been here now 2 days, and I'm literally going across the country. I've been here 2 days. I'm going across the country in the month, and the one day that I've done so far filming has been in San Francisco, and I can tell you, I was shocked by pretty much everyone we spoke to. Their problems were illegal migration, illegal immigrants in San Francisco.
Were these liberals?
There were everybody. Like, I'm talking about in the.
It used to be.
It was like
It used to be.
Yeah, it was. The video is going to come out. It's a pretty crazy place. I've never seen anything like that. I used to be a heroin addict, and I have never seen people on the nod in the way that I saw them on.
Well, let's dive into this. Can you explain what you saw in San Francisco?
Yeah. Well, you'll be able to see it on Sunday.
Yeah.
AviAcrossAmerica.com. There you go. You can watch it on Sunday. But what I saw, I spoke to anyone I could talk to in Tenderloin, and you literally, like, everyone's really passionate there because they're living what I can only describe as I guess the Democrats' dream for the rest of the country, and it kind of presents itself as a warning. And everybody there said, or almost everybody, the only person that I think I spoke to that was kind of pro Harris was saying, yes, it's going to be great when this spreads around the rest of the country. But they were saying that it all came down, like a lot of them came down to illegal migrants taking all their opportunities and you know, that's how they feel. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But this is how the average and mostly African Americans that I spoke to were feeling. And I don't know if they're going to be voting, because I get the feeling there that most people don't really, that, you know, all they're really fixed on is the next hit.
Have you seen the story out of Chicago with this? The black residents literally said, "We are being replaced." That was their quote.
Yeah.
Because the illegal immigrants. But I don't know, man. How is it in Australia? Was it how you seem shocked by it? Australia must be nice.
Well, I've never seen anything like that. I dare say it'll come, but it was a pretty big shock. It's confronting to see, and like I said, I'm somebody that has my own history. I spent my teenage years on the streets, you know, shooting up heroin in my arm, but I have not seen that. Fentanyl is a scary.
So exactly what were you saying? Like, people were doing these drugs?
They're doing the drugs on the street. That's like, okay, I've seen that before, but I've never seen them firstly do it so openly. And we spoke to cops on the street as well, kind of telling us in their way what's going on. And what the issue sort of is when you can read between the lines of what they're saying. But people are literally falling over. There's no fear of any consequence, because there is no consequence. And you walk into this bizarre alternative reality, which is horrible. Like, you feel bad. They were really nice people. Straight up, everybody would talk to me. Almost everybody, except like a couple of drug dealers and
these are drug users.
Drug users.
Wow.
But all like on the nod talking to us.
Ratio: how many regular people going to buy a Starbucks and how many people doing fentanyl?
There.
Yeah.
There's more fentanyl.
More fentanyl.
Everybody's using.
But that's because San Francisco has made the Tenderloin district,
And that's what people
a mecca for drug. I mean, they talk about it. They first off, it's taxpayer funded for the most part, but they talk about it like, well, it's good because we know where you are, and so if you overdose, we can help you, or we can make sure you have clean needles.
Anyone who says it's good, go there.
That's the thing. Like, to me, it's like, this is where you want to be, and I'm almost not surprised that people are so comfortable talking to you because this is part of the routine. I mean, I read an interview about a year ago with like a volunteer worker who worked in the area, because they do have different like areas set up to try and help people, and say, well, are you interested in going to rehab? And they're like, no, thank you. I would rather stay here, because it's a culture of like, well, this is the norm and this is what we're doing.
There was a bunch of people that I met there that said they actually came, that they weren't from there. They came there for the drugs and for the freedom. There was one who told me they actually came for the support that was offered around drugs. So they joined a rehab, they got off drugs, but then, and then they remained clean for a couple of years. But then, just from being around everyone is essentially on drugs, they got pulled back into it, and it's hard. Like a 23-year-old, boy, to me, like I feel like my kids are almost that age. He's telling me, he's been on it. He's waiting to get off it. He doesn't sleep at night because the 2 bags of his property that he owns, the 2 things that he owns, bags of stuff he owns in his life, he will lose it if he falls asleep at night. It'll just be taken. It's a insane place, and if really that is the future of anywhere, like broader America, I would do anything to vote against that.
What do you think they should do? The government, at least. What should they do to rectify it?
Make drugs illegal again. To be honest, like I'm somebody that kind of sits in a weird position, because this conversation is being had in Australia about legalizing drugs, and in our capital, in our capital, I think they are legalizing or decriminalizing heavy drugs. And I dare say that anyone in Australia who supports that should actually go to San Francisco and see how that actually ends up. It doesn't end well. And as somebody that, I used to use, we had needle exchanges and all that. So I think I can see a balance in stuff. Having said that, when I was a kid, it also encouraged me to use drugs, because it was easier for me to call at 2 a.m. a needle exchange to deliver needles than it was to get, let's say, a pizza at that time. So even in my time, in my experience, I may not have have gone as far if it wasn't as accessible, and it's nothing compared to on the street in San Francisco in the open. I remember we had to hide from the police to score drugs. Literally, it's all happening.
It's ruined the city. I mean, the stores are shutting down.
Nothing.
There was a big store. I think Walgreens pharmacies were closing, and there were elderly people who now had to walk 4 more blocks, and it was very difficult for them to get their prescriptions. The mall wrote off their lease, and basically the company that owned it forfeited the loan to their creditor. And the same thing happened with several of the largest hotels in the city. Yeah. They have to know that these policies have resulted in the city falling apart.
If you make it illegal, and because I think there's probably no easy solution, which is why it hasn't been solved yet, then would it criminalize possession, and all those people would just start getting rounded up and sent to a jail to
round them up and send them to rehab? Force it. I don't know. It's a hard thing. You can't get somebody off drugs who doesn't want to get off drugs. It's true. And the problem is that their policies has just encouraged so many more people to get on drugs. So what are you going to do with those that are already on drugs? Yeah, it's a problem, but you better stop it now, because what you have now is bad enough. The problem is gonna just grow, and everybody there admits it. Like, even the drug users, the majority of them admit that there is a major problem.
I could see not all drugs are the same. Like weed, it stinks when it's smoked, but it's not heroin. It's not opioids. It's not
I've never seen anything like that. And
and there's not as much fentanyl in Australia, right?
I don't think.
All drugs.
I'm drinking caffeine right now. You sell drugs.
No. All drugs.
Caffeine.
Every single one. Ibuprofen, gone.
Silly man.
All of them out.
So there really is a conversation like fentanyl. I've never had much up close experience with fentanyl. Have you? I mean, I don't know anybody that's been on fentanyl. I haven't watched. You have recently?
I've never seen it.
The crazy thing is these stories where, these college kids or these high school kids will buy some kind of pill or something. It'll be laced with fentanyl and they'll die. Why would a dealer do that?
I think it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I think that when they put fentanyl in it, it's because it's an accident that they put that much in.
Yeah, that much.
Fentanyl is cheaper than some other.
Yeah, it'll get you high. I was going to tell you a story from my childhood, but probably not good to say.
Not a good one.
But,
Not a good one.
The idea is probably to get the kids really high for really cheap, and just miscalculated. Yeah.
Wow.
Because the other thing is like
It'll be a great high for sure. There's a reason why that many people are on it.
You know, I got prescribed opioids for when I had my impacted tooth. They do nothing for me. Just has zero impact.
What was it?
What was what?
Which opioids?
Percocets.
Like what? Do you know the milligrams of it? Like was it not strong enough? Were you not?
I don't know. All I know is that it doesn't do anything for the pain. That like I've you know, so when I had it before for a kidney stone, it feels good, but the pain is still 100%.
Oh, that's the thing about opioids. They don't actually stop the pain. They make you not care about it, which is weird. So, or
I
that's the way
certainly
it's described. Really?
You weren't having enough.
So when I got a kidney stone 7 years ago and went to the ER, and because I didn't know what it was, I thought I might have had appendicitis, and they gave me everything, and none of it worked. And so then they finally gave me Toradol, which is an NSAID, and pain gone. So I'm an ibuprofen fan. That stuff seems to do the job for
I'm
me.
caffeine all the way. That's my drug.
Well, that's not a painkiller. So.
But isn't this one of the problems with fentanyl, which is that people are affected by it differently? Like there's not a universal fatal dose, but it can be very fatal in small quantities. And that's also interesting that you're saying there's none in Australia. I mean, or at least
I don't think there's a
not as
fentanyl
prevalent.
issue yet in Australia.
But I don't think Australia had the same kind of opioid crisis that we.
Oh, we did.
Really?
I don't know if it's the same as here, but it was, during
the
back night. Back when I was a teenager, like even the 2000s, like heroin was everywhere. Now they're just getting into the coke.
But you didn't have like the prescription opioid crisis.
That's the thing here in the U.S. That's a lot of that is driven by prescriptions and by
because
doctors that said
there are three waves of the opioid crisis in America, and one component of it was the overprescription of opioids, which is fascinating because then it makes it easier to say like, have you tried fentanyl?
They were telling doctors that opioids were not addictive.
Yes.
I don't know why on earth they were doing that.
Sell them.
Well,
I don't know if you've heard of Big Pharma.
Well, I mean, yes, but
I think that was his sarcasm. I think.
Yeah, like I mean,
read that wrong.
It seems obvious that those drugs are addictive. So why doctors weren't saying, "Oh, hey, we have to manage your pain with this."
Well, to be fair to doctors, I don't think doctors themselves knew. I don't think doctors know very much. They're glorified pharmacists half the time. They just know whatever they're told.
But if you look at, like, if I understand correctly, like the Netherlands, the way that they prescribe medication, like when you go to the doctor and you have to have some kind of painkiller or whatever, they'll give you a little bit, and then they'll say, well, does it hurt? Are you hurting? And they're like, yeah, well, there's gonna be some pain while you heal. They don't just try to eliminate the pain. And I think partially that's because in the United States, everyone is so focused on comfort constantly. And if you resign yourself to the fact that life has discomfort sometimes, and if you get into an accident or you have to have an operation, there's going to be uncomfortable times,
and that's when you cry.
That's when you test your mettle. But the point is, the constant striving for comfort, and whether it be here in the U.S., and not that I'm complaining because I love air conditioning, but the way that we air condition the buildings that we live in, we're so accustomed to it, whereas other places in the world, comfort is not the primacy. The comfort doesn't have the primacy that it does here in the U.S.
Dr. Drew was on IRL like 2 years ago or something, and he was Dr. Drew Pinsky. He's board certified physician, et cetera, been around. But anyway, he said that they started treating pain. This was something that changed in the medical industry. I think it was in the late 90s, where doctors had to treat pain. And if a patient told you I'm in pain and you wouldn't treat it, you could lose your license for malpractice, because it became officially indoctrinated that you had to treat their pain, not the illness itself. And that's when the opioids like really took hold. It's because it's like, I'll give you, then you're supposed to give them more painkillers because it's the pain's the problem now. And it's not, it never was before. It was the illness that's causing the pain is the problem. If you can fight through the pain. I don't know if that's actually ever been reversed to this day.
Yeah, I think America has a different. I mean, we know this is different than probably Australia, but definitely our culture around medicine is different than the way it is in Europe. In part because of the structure of how doctors are paid and the pharmaceutical industries are involved. But I think what is fascinating to me about all of this is that fentanyl in America is a problem because we had a pre-existing desire for opioids. And if you're in a country that then did not get this influx of an alternative, you stand a different chance. So I could understand why Australia is now suddenly like, well, maybe we should decriminalize this. Like maybe they're not facing the same fallout. What I think is wild is in America, we have cities like San Francisco and other cities that have taken steps to either decriminalize hard drug use or, make it safer, quote unquote, by needle exchanges or whatever else. And it fails. And then we just continue it or do it again. We create these systems of dependencies that aren't actually helping anybody. And we know that we have a history of a problem. And yet we think we're being compassionate, but really we're just letting people suffer openly.
I don't know what to do, man. I mean, could you just make fentanyl illegal? Just the possession.
Well, you'd have to stop the trafficking of fentanyl. I mean, there is legitimate medicine grade prescribed by doctor fentanyl, right? Then there's like manufactured fentanyl that gets trafficked.
And also, it is a controlled substance. It is illegal to have it, unless you've got a prescription.
One.
I don't know what it is. I don't know, but I assume that it is an opioid. It is an opioid.
It's an opioid, yeah.
So yeah, it's classified with all the other opioids.
There's also norfentanyl, which is a more powerful form of this.
It's illegal too.
But again, when I would write more about fentanyl use in America, people would be like, well, but the prescription fentanyl is fine. It's like, yeah, sure, if it's prescribed by a doctor. Although, as we know, any kind of pain medicine is something you should be careful about because you can become addicted to prescription pain medicine. But the problem in America is largely illicit fentanyl that is manufactured overseas and then trafficked into the country. I mean, if you look at the border crisis, the conversation around not just human trafficking or people coming in to commit crimes, but the influx of fentanyl is one of the reasons so many people are starting to say, like, we have to do something because they watch people suffer and die because they are addicted to this substance, and we are letting it flow into the country.
They call it the Opium Wars from in like the late 1800s. The British Empire was trying to colonize China, and they started shoving all this opium into the country to destabilize and destroy it. And a lot of people say the Chinese have never forgotten that, and now they're giving it back to us through Mexico, and they're intentionally corrupting our society that way. It's, by the way, fentanyl's a Schedule 2.
What?
Marijuana's a Schedule 1 for some reason.
I know, that's why I'm surprised.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Along with oxycodone and hydrocodone, Schedule 2.
Those are wild drugs. Like compared to any other family of drugs, there's nothing more addictive. Like they actually, you become so dependent on it so quickly. Just heroin that you can't live without. You just can't live with. You're sick as a dog. Like when I was a kid, I was on everything else except, but heroin was the thing that got me because once you started it, there was no turning back.
There's a viral story. A guy on Reddit posted that he was going to try heroin one time because he thought he could try it to see what it was like, and then he wouldn't do it ever again. And then his comments over the period of time, over like a year, have been archived because you can't.
Dude,
he did it one time, and then the whole thing turns into his life getting destroyed.
One of the most horrible movie characters, and we should maybe make a movie with this guy, the undercover cop that's forced to like do the drugs for the role of playing the cop undercover. Like he's like, hey, if I'm going to infiltrate this family, they want me to shoot the heroin, and then he gets addicted and it destroys his family life. His marriage falls apart. He can't quit. And then he's like, his whole life is destroyed. Like he thought he could do it. Oh, God, so horrible.
There's actually some true stories. There's one where a cop infiltrated an active eco-terrorist group and then fell in love with one of the female eco-terrorists and then turned on his department and wouldn't rat on the eco-terrorists.
I love that. I was just watching Ed O'Neill on Miami Vice. He was like the undercover cop, and they were like, "Is he turned? Is he turned?" That was like Ed O'Neill before he was Al Bundy on Married with Children.
Let's jump to this story because it's Friday and we're gonna have some fun, and it's still an interesting and serious story. Pentagon's secret UFO data retrieval program, Immaculate Constellation, revealed for first time in new whistleblower report. So the crazy thing about this is these are called USAPs. What is the Unacknowledged Special Access Program? Literally defined as a program in which, here's what it says. In this article from the January 2000 issue of National Security Magazine, they say, confronted with the unauthorized use of a program name or a specific question, an accessed individual may deny all knowledge of a program, as he should, because its existence is a core secret, and a mere no comment is tantamount to confirmation. The questioner, who may not be aware that an accessed individual must respond with a denial, will believe that denial and spread it further. This is outright them saying, these are whistleblowers. The government has programs where they intentionally will lie to the press and claim these things aren't true. And then the media will then go around saying, we talked to the government, none of this is true. And that is the intention. In this program, it's pretty crazy. They're basically saying UAPs are a known problem. Unidentified aerial phenomenon are a known problem. One of the stories they tell, look at this. The alleged leaked classified report to Congress described an incident in which a swarm of orb UFOs surrounded an F-22 stealth Raptor, forcing it off course. The F-22 broke trajectory and attempted to evade, according to the alleged report, but was intercepted and boxed in by approximately 3 to 6 UAPs. One UAP maneuvered in proximity to the area directly starboard the cockpit, as the whistleblower's report described the pilot's testimony. There, the UAP established a rigid spatial relationship with the F-22, maintaining its exact position and orientation parallel with the F-22's cockpit despite multiple evasive rolls and maneuvers. Could you imagine that? You're flying, an orb locks in, and no matter what you do, the orb just stays exactly in the same spot. You roll, and it stays and rolls locked in that position.
In the most maneuverable plane that the United States has, too.
Yo.
I think they're locking onto it with lasers or some sort of radiation beams. They're locking onto the airplane, and it's creating the distortion field around the airplane of these orbs that they can move around, and they're just kind of...
I'm just going to believe whatever he says because he's wearing that top and he just seems like he knows what he's talking about.
I didn't know we were going to go this deep tonight, but, I'm always ready.
Yeah,
we should have Ashton Forbes back on the show. Has he been on the show yet? He was looking at that Malaysian flight that just disappeared, right? And there's like orbs in the video, and he's got all this...
That's hectic, that story. I can't believe I never found that.
When it comes to these orbs, I think that they're plasma phenomenon. They might be drones, but having it locked on like that to the plane makes me think that it's plasma.
The whistleblower claims to have authored the report to Congress, described the Immaculate Constellation USAP as a strategic intelligence program, and only one part of how the U.S. military currently deals with its UAP problem. Maybe it's what? China has got some kind of new weapon we don't know about, and they're harassing our...
To me, that's
pilots
more likely.
Right? Then what? Aliens?
Then aliens.
But no one's saying aliens here. UAP just means unidentified.
Yeah, I know, but
or it could be a corporation.
I think people when they watch it, when they look at an article like that, they just assume it.
Like a dark corporation that no one knows exists.
The Zionists.
Everybody knows they exist. Come on,
Yeah.
People won't shut up about them.
They should incorporate.
It was not mine.
You're the one who said it.
Like who? I bet there are corporations that aren't on the books. I would be surprised if there weren't.
So you mean secret
Well,
societies?
the defining thing about a corporation is that it's registered with the government.
Good point. So like an organization, I should say, that's an unknown organization.
Sure
Illuminati.
High technology. Could you imagine? I don't normally make any kind of claims that I can't back up with remote
so
evidence.
scared as to where this conversation is headed.
Aliens.
The Illuminati.
The Illuminati.
The Illuminati.
Can't be aliens because Hunter Biden's not up to anything right now. That's when we only get stories about aliens.
Yeah, that's true.
Him. His trial is coming up though pretty soon, I think.
Oh, that explains this story.
My assumption is
here we are.
There we go.
I assume they would have released it the week of, but
Path of least resistance is at Occam's razor is that it's American military programs, secret military programs.
Right. I agree. There was a story where they said that there were some UFOs flying around. And then I was reading this quote about it, and some guy said, it's shocking to see something like this. We often have to deal with weird things because we have that experimental naval facility 70 miles away. And I'm like, wait, what? So you know what's going on? What do
you ever study
these ones?
Pine Gap? Are you familiar with it? It's in the middle of Australia.
Yep.
It's the second...
Alice Springs, the next... Yep.
Where's it?
In Alice Springs.
Alice Springs.
What is that?
It's the second largest American military base outside of the United States. And it's in the middle of Australia, like kind of like secluded in the middle of the desert or something. And it's like, I don't know what it is, if it's a research facility or if it's like a spy network. Is that the main spy facility or something?
It's you guys. Why are you asking me? It's your gig.
People go there and they're like,
they experiment on kangaroos.
Whoa, that proves it.
They've got like big
kangaroos used to actually be cows until you guys got there.
So they genetically.
I just assumed they were like jacked men. They'd like go live in Australia for a while.
Yeah, Pine Gap's pretty fascinating. There's a lot of American military research.
Yeah, it's a satellite communications and signal intelligence surveillance base, joint United States Australian base.
It's like an imperial.
That just means American and Australian is just.
It just means that
We just get our name on it.
Well, I mean, you guys are like a vassal state of the United States. You know what I mean?
Or the empire? Who's
Right.
Who's running the empire? Is it Emperor Charles or is it the American?
It's the
Emperor
CIA.
Charles.
It's like-
He doesn't even run England, bro.
It's like dead center in Australia.
So I actually went there because we had a massive crime. In fact, it's still there now. Alice Springs is like the crime capital of Australia. It's hectic Aboriginal crime. It's kind of the stuff you see here, but minus the guns.
Alice Springs is in like what Australians call the bush, right? Like it's in the middle.
Outback. That's Outback Australia.
It's like middle of nowhere, so it's really rural. And then there's like Alice Springs. I mean, I'm sure there are some other towns, but it's like it's totally removed from Melbourne.
It cost me
Sydney.
more to fly there to cover what was going on than it would to come to America.
Yeah.
Like you had to catch this little dodgy plane.
Or there's like a train that goes to it from I think Adelaide. Like it's difficult to access, so it is in some ways isolated from the rest of the country, right?
They have like a lot of crime. You were saying?
Yeah. So it's that's a lot to go there, but it's actually African American culture, like ghetto culture that's like infiltrated the indigenous, the Aboriginal kids, and I guess they're also bored. And a bit like San Francisco, so police, they've got all these woke ideas of how to police indigenous communities because the white man's so bad.
Wow.
And white guilt is kind of guiding policy, which means that, you can watch kids commit violent crimes and nothing happens. Like they might take them in for an hour and they're back out. And the cops, I was talking to the cops, they just don't do anything because they're like, well, we have no tools. If you let us do it.
A lot of that attitude actually comes from Franz Fanon in a book called "The Wretched of the Earth." He's kind of like the leading thought leader of, or one of the thought leaders of like the idea of decolonization. So,
I was listening to a true crime episode of like an unsolved case that was in Alice Springs or very near that area.
Yeah, there's a lot of
and the one host is explaining to the other like, oh, this girl went missing. This small child went missing at a party, and they're trying to describe this party where like it's underage drinking, but also everyone's grandmother is there, and like it's just like the other culture's like, wait, but like if their parent, we don't like they couldn't wrap their minds around because the culture is like unique to that area, and therefore some of the culture mores of like in this case because it was true crime, like why certain people started talking about certain amounts of information or whatever else, like it to me is. Australia is unique in a lot of ways, but it seems like a unique part of Australia even to the rest of the country. That would be difficult to untangle.
I think there's a lot of outback towns that are similar. Alice Springs has gotten a lot of attention, but in Alice Springs, like one of the main drivers is alcohol. And so what they did was, so conservative governments implemented an alcohol ban essentially, or restrictions around service of alcohol, at days that you can buy alcohol, restrictions on how much a person can buy. And then, then of course the left came in and they go, oh, well, that's a racist policy. Even if it was actually led by some Aboriginal politicians, but they deemed it's racist. You can't. And so they lifted these bans and, it comes back to like San Francisco banning the fentanyl or whatever, they're actually enforcing the law. Once they lifted it, shit got mad. So much worse that then the left, the Labor government, which is our left, ended up being forced to re-implement the bans that they deemed so racist because they realized that was the only thing that worked, at least to a certain degree.
Was it like on the people in Alice Springs or in that area of the country? They were
so in Alice Springs, yeah. So you weren't, there are certain days that the bottle shop was open. I can't remember the restrictions at all. I did a whole couple of weeks reporting from the ground there. It was pretty insane.
Dang, man. Did you get close to Pine Gap? Are you able?
So yeah, super close. I think I drove by it. I didn't even realize till I was there that had existed.
Yeah, I think they do live fire exercises outside of the facility.
And I met a bunch of Americans. I was like, "What are you doing here?" Like it's mostly Aboriginal communities that are all surrounding. That's what you were talking about.
And they're close knit communities. So then you have the sudden like appearance of
and they're all
Americans.
tribes and then you have like the white Aussies that are there, farmers or whatever. And then you had a bunch of Yanks, like military guys that are just hanging about. I'm like, what is there an American accent doing here?
I can't imagine being an American service member who's like being told you're getting deployed to Australia, and they're thinking like Sydney, beautiful, and then you're in Alice.
It would be a horrible gig.
I don't know.
I envision the underground.
It would be a horrible gig.
I disagree.
Mecca.
I think there's probably a lot of guys who are in the military who are like, yeah, it's going to be cool. Go on an adventure and you go out to the middle of nowhere.
Until you get there.
And then you
I
live
disagree.
underground.
Like, I would love to spend time at McMurdo or like Antarctica. I think it would sound fun to be out there for a little while. People get stationed
For a little while. Like I agree.
Yeah, but how long
It's like it's the landscape is incredible. It's something you haven't seen, like the red dirt.
Yeah.
You know, Ayers Rock, and like it's crazy it's beautiful, but it will get very boring very quickly.
Yeah, but you know what? This is what humans do. You know what I mean?
I feel like
Not everybody could do it. I hear you.
Did you guys play Fallout? Not Fallout. No.
Yes.
Half-Life. You have played Fallout. Half-Life, the original Half-Life. You're a science facility guy with super high-tech clearance, and you go Black Mesa, Arizona, I think, and you go on this train, and you're just going underground further and further. I think that's kind of what Pine Gap's going to be like deep underground.
That's where
massive high-tech.
Well, you know what they say is
what do you think that
underground? There's a bunch of cities where the lizard people live, and they're all networked, and they can't come to the surface because their skin's too sensitive and their eyes are too sensitive.
Why do you think
so?
that?
Humans go underground
because it's so desolate on the surface, and if you see satellite images of Pine Gap, it just looks like a remote nothingness. But it's the second largest military.
What do you think is in there?
Well, there's apparently Alice Springs, so there's spring water, so there's underground reservoirs of some sort. So that's a good place to be underground.
They got a target.
Lots
Not a
of
real target. Australia stole target from us, but
It's we call it target to be fancy,
Yeah.
but it's nothing like your target.
Oh,
no, it was, and the brand is not the same thing. Yeah.
I think that they're working on, I don't know what they're working on, interdimensional travel, dude. Super high-tech vibrational
they're just
teleportation.
racing camels, bro.
I
Look.
don't know what they're doing.
I'm not
That's what they
kidding.
want you to think. Yeah, we're
They're
just
legit.
riding
That's
around.
not from Pine. That's from Pine.
I mean, don't you think that it
Alice
makes
Springs, right here, Camel Cup.
Alice Springs.
Yeah.
Don't you think that it makes more sense that considering Australia is fairly close to China, that it would be like an outpost for like monitoring
Yes.
China and stuff like
Exactly that, yeah.
You know,
It's the
camels
monitoring
are actually,
outpost.
I think, our biggest export, if I'm not wrong.
Pardon me?
I think one of our biggest exports.
Oh, we got kangaroos.
One of our biggest.
somewhere.
I'm not. Sorry, it's
think
definitely not our biggest, but it's. Or it might be the biggest seller of camels in the world. Something weird.
You guys, like, you've probably eaten quite a bit of kangaroo, I'd imagine.
A little bit. I don't.
Really?
It's really tough meat.
Is it common?
Yeah, you can get it, but you got to know how to cook it.
Ah, yeah. We have kangaroo jerky around here somewhere.
You boil it?
No. It's when it's cooked well, it's okay. It's lean meat. It's really good
Yeah.
for you, but it's not the
You ever
nicest.
see that video where the kangaroo is punching the window,
Oh, no.
and the guy's like looking through the glass, and the kangaroo's like trying to get him?
Kangaroos are cool. Like I think kangaroos are cool. They get a bad rap sometimes, and
That's
they
what
do
I- yeah.
fight. Like I wouldn't. Yeah, but where I live, they're walking
I
around.
feel like a bit of a
And they're
yank.
like, they're tall, and they're like,
Do you hang out? Like,
whatever.
have you been with them a lot?
We fist bump every time.
Yeah, like the
No.
kangaroo.
Where I live, there's like close to me. There's a
we
lot.
got like 50 deer out in the
deer.
backyard.
So the way you have deer here is like kangaroos.
You see one like
around
jumping
there.
in the yard in a rural area, kind of.
Yeah, they jump. Yeah, it has to be like this sort of.
The deer will be sitting outside our house, and it'll like we'll walk outside and it'll look at us and just like walk away.
Yeah, same as kangaroos. Kangaroos are the same.
God,
Yeah.
I love them, but they got massive bites.
Some
They have like
Huge
claws.
pectoral muscles, and
I don't know if they have claws actually.
thank God they're herbivores, or we would have probably wiped them out by now. They
Like a box.
They ate meat. They'd probably be extinct.
Weird animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the way I describe Australia, most people do, is like if you were playing Earth and you were like, I want to go to the highest level monster zone, because like the spiders are as big as your face. Every snake will kill you by looking at you. You know what I mean?
Did they
We used
import
to
them
have
there?
that rep until COVID. Like, we're the country of real men. Until the government told us we got to stay in our houses, or we're going to
documented-
die from something you can't see. We're not scared of spiders and snakes, but this invisible virus is going to kill me.
I don't know.
We gotta go to
Oh,
Super Chats.
nice. Yeah. Well, if anyone wants to, you did some of the best documentation from the inside of Australia during the COVID experience. I thought so. Check out all of Avi's work on that. It's fascinating.
We're going to go to Super Chat, so smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Leave us a good review if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else. Those reviews really, really do help. Become a member at timcast.com, because that's literally what makes this thing function. If we didn't have members, this show would not be here, and I really do mean that. So pay what you will if you want to see us keep running, but you'll get access to our Discord server, Like-minded individuals will hang out with you, and you can argue or be friends, whatever you want to do. And then Monday through Thursday, we have the Uncensored Members Show, so no Uncensored show tonight. And I do want to stress, this Sunday, Newtown, PA, I will be speaking with Scott Pressler and Jack Posobiec at a early voter initiative event. And I know we're going to talk about just all this stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I hope to see you all up there in Bucks County. Here we go. That one gamer says, 21-year-old Gen Z here. Most guys my age are apolitical. We're just sick of people hating us for being men. The lean to the right comes across more as FU to the left. They hate us either way. Indeed, good sir. Indeed, good sir. I hope more Gen Z guys just want to be guys and they find themselves with in good company with good podcasts. You don't need to be political. You know, you've got men who have good podcasts. Jocko, Sean Ryan, some men that will tell you about the things they go through, and maybe that's inspirational. Jordan Peterson did very well with this, still does, but good influences, man. All right, Invisible Dud. Has anyone went and checked on Maui and East Palestine after the disasters? Did they ever get taken care of like we were told they were going to be? Did they ever get? Also, love you, Ian. Keep being cool.
Oh, thanks, man. I have not followed up on
it. It's the jumper, bro.
Definitely is. I was thinking Luke Rukowski gave me this, by the way, or he encouraged me to buy it or something like that. I have not followed up on these. It's like out of sight, out of mind, almost like the hurricane or the damage in the southeast right now. I have looked on the news today. I looked up Milton, and there's 18 hours ago is the last story about it. I have not been following. Have you been following East Palestine? Any of you guys or Maui at all?
I think Rebel actually went back. They sent a team back. And they're like, nothing is done.
Wow.
They haven't rebuilt one thing.
That's
sad,
because of the toxicity, right? Is that
in East Palestine?
That's what I understand.
But are the people getting taken care of, or are their lives?
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were talking about male.
No, are you talking about Rebel sent a team to Maui?
To East
Palestine.
One of them, I can't remember which.
East Palestine is where the chemical spill happened.
Yeah, I know they sent them to one of them where they were going to rebuild. No, I think it was the other one. Maui.
Yeah,
they sent them to Maui, and nothing was rebuilt. You can fact check. Just look at it. I know it was just recent.
I think the CEO of Norfolk Southern, which was the train company, stepped down. But again, is that impacting the residents? Really, I don't know. And there was some sort of fine, but again, is this helping the residents? I don't know.
All right, we got Mike Coyne. He says, "I got the boobies." Oh no, James the second tonight. Yes, James will be back next week. But yeah, the boobies board. So take a look, boonieshq.com. Do you guys know what a blue-footed booby is?
Now I do.
It is a bird on the Galapagos that has blue feet, and it does not fear humans.
How big is it?
I don't know. They look like they may be like this big, like decently big.
I love it.
And so Sam from the Boonies crew made this board, the boobies. He replaced the N with the B, and it looks funny. And then they put this bird on it, and it's our second best-selling skateboard.
It's like a penguin.
Yeah, they're blue-footed boobies.
it.
They have a great name. We love them. We love them. So you can check those out if you want to get it at boonieshq.com. But step on Sneck and find out. I think we've sold like 300 of these. And so our distributor didn't believe us when we were like, yo, we're going to sell these things like crazy. They're like, okay, we'll see. And then we did. And they were like, oh, wow. People want the step on Sneck and find out.
I was going to say, I missed the days of when boob was like an insult. You boob, like in cartoons
Bring
and
it back,
stuff.
man.
Yeah, bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah, shout it.
All right. Raybert G. Stanbert Jr. says, if you don't vote Harris, you ain't black. Barack Obama, 2024. That was not on my bingo card, to be honest. I mean, we knew they were going to pull out Barack Obama when they needed him the most. They've been waiting, you know?
It's like retiring an old battleship. Not retiring it, bringing it out of harbor. And you're like, it's not quite the same material that all the new battleships are made of, but it's still functional.
All right. Radan says, Angel Studios, Sound of Freedom, I cried. Yeah, that intro was pretty brutal, man. I gotta give him that one. Let's go. What do we have here? Here we go. Salty says, this super chat has been paid for by my black job where I work overtime on a regular basis because our economy has been wrecked. Praying that my hard work can go unpunished and untaxed. MAGA. Indeed. Did you guys see that video where allegedly Nelly yelled MAGA?
I love Nelly.
I don't know that he actually said MAGA. It's like you can't really tell what they're rapping, but it sounds like he says MAGA. Yeah.
I saw some tweet that was like Lana Del Rey says she's behind mass deportations, but I don't think she actually said. I haven't fact checked it, but I'm hoping. You know, she married that alligator tour guide. She's anything could happen.
It's possible.
A Father's
Great
Crisis
hope for
says,
pop
I don't
stars.
know what this Kamala ad is supposed to prove. I do love women. I think every man should own one.
You guys are so funny.
Is this
Claire's such a good sport.
Is this Dom says watching Lord of the Rings for the 50th time last week? I cried. I don't cry at all in Lord of the Rings.
What part would you cry?
I don't know when someone
When
said
it
when
starts?
Sam carries for when it starts.
100%.
That's a good one. Maradni says Lord of the Rings is the only acceptable answer to shed a tear to my friends. You bow to no one.
I never heard that one.
Nope. Sound of Freedom, I get. Joshua Beckett says differentiate crying and weeping. Weep when Sam carries Frodo. Cry when your father dies.
A lot of Lord of the Rings fans.
Seriously.
I had no idea. I mean, it is pretty badass when Sam carries Frodo.
I'm getting cancelled then for that one.
Aaron Parsons says I cried playing The Last of Us when Joel's daughter gets shot and dies. I am a girl dad, so it hit me hard. Bro, the intro to Sound of Freedom will rip out your heart. This poor dad, man. So sad. Carlos Redmond says last movie that made me cry was Sound of Freedom. Trevor Ritzky says I cried watching Sound of Freedom.
Somebody call Angel Studio right now. Be like, you're making all these men in America cry. What do you have to say for yourself?
That movie was good. That was so good. Yeah. Found Hope says I cried watching Rings of Power. It was so bad. Just kidding. I didn't watch that rubbish. They're canceling it.
Are they? Season 2 it's in right now?
I guess. I don't know. I heard they're canceling it. I'm not going to watch it.
Just watching it shredded.
Apparently, Marvel is firing all their activists.
Really?
And they're trying to reboot because you can really see what happened. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. After Infinity War, they brought in Brie Larson, and everything went woke, and it just started fumbling downhill. They stopped making money. They went from $1 billion movies to $300 million movies. The Marvels bombed, made no money. And so Kevin Feige was like, fire all of these people. What is going on?
I'd love to play a Marvel character. Like, just turn that IP around, because it's a great IP. We make some cool movies.
It must be bad, because my 17-year-old daughter, she's argued everything with me always. That's her pretty much her job. But the other day she came up and goes, I can't remember what movie it was, but it was like a remake of it, modern Marvel movie now. And she goes, I can't watch any of the new stuff anymore. It's everything's just crap. It's all woke. Yep. And I just looked at her, I go, I told you 5 years ago.
It is.
But it must be bad. I know.
So they're trying to redo it all. They're trying to do like a reboot. And so they brought Robert Downey Jr. back. Because they're like, so they brought Robert Downey Jr. back to play Dr. Doom.
Oh, that's cool.
But everyone's like, how does this make sense? He's going to look like Tony Stark. And they're like, no, because Dr. Doom's face is in a mask. They're going to do something. But Robert Downey Jr. is great, but they knew they had to go to him and they were like, dude, we went from $1 billion movies to bombs. What do we do? Fire all the activists. I just got to say, they went from Thor, Chris Hemsworth, what is he, like 6'3", and he's massive. And then they bring in Brie Larson, who's 5'7" and 100 pounds soaking wet. And they were like, people are going to like watching this. And they did not. They did not. That burned everything down.
They continue to ignore the fact that men and women are different, and that's okay. And we should celebrate the differences and not try to make women into men.
I was just thinking, like, if they wanted to have a female superhero like Captain Marvel, they could have got an actual strong woman to play the role.
They could have had a man write it so that way it didn't look like she was mugging some dude because she hates guys.
Well, he said smile more.
Oh yeah, but I mean it was still not
that was so
not a heroic thing. It was
they clearly brought in a woman to write that, and then what happened was the movie made $1 billion and they said, see, people love it. Then they made The Marvels, the sequel, and it bombed. And they were like, no, people like Marvel. So they went to go see your movie, and they won't go see another one because you've burned the brand down. Mm-hmm. But you've not seen it, I imagine.
No.
So it's clearly written by a woman. It starts with her walking up to a guy, like there's a guy on a motorcycle, and he looks at her and he goes, you should smile more. And then she looks at him, and the next scene, she's stolen his clothes and his motorcycle and is driving away. It's like, yeah, a man didn't write that.
And the parts that were actually cut off, they edited it. She actually beat the crap out of the guy.
Really?
Like they did shoot that stuff. They just cut it out. Yeah.
Jeez.
So, and she's supposed to be the hero. So she's got superpowers, and she beats a normal man for saying smile more. That is not anything that a hero does. That is a woman who hates men writing her personal fantasy.
And let's break this down too, because even in the first Thor movie, the point of Thor and Iron Man is that they're not good people, right?
Yes.
They tried claiming that, it's because Brie Larson's character is a bad guy. She's working for this elite alien military, so she's not a good guy yet. She has to earn that. And I'm like, even Tony Stark, when he was the bad guy who didn't care, wasn't evil.
Yep.
And Thor, when Thor he's arrogant and he wants to do good, but he's full of himself and he gets his powers taken away. Then they get Brie Larson. It's like, nah, she just beats a guy up because they smile more.
And that's a characteristic, or that's a thing that happens frequently in modern movies where females are the lead. You can't actually hurt a woman in movies because people don't like that happening. So you have to have this character that's awesome in the beginning and awesome all the way through. If you look at The Force Awakens, Rey was awesome from the start. She beat what's his name at the very end of the first one. Like in the first Star Wars movie, Luke was nothing. Like he was almost a tertiary character until the end. He did nothing heroic.
All he did was fire the missiles.
Yeah, and then in The Empire Strikes Back, he got his ass handed to him the whole movie.
And his hand taken from him.
Yeah. And it took all the way to the third movie before you were like, okay, now he's returned.
Doing
now
front flips.
Yeah, he's learned, he's gone through struggle, he's suffered, and now he's back as the Jedi. And he's learned all these things in 2 whole movies. And they didn't do that at all. And they don't do that anymore with women because people reject seeing women suffer like that.
Well, I think that's true too, but I also think what happened was they hired activists.
Yes,
the activists
absolutely.
don't know or care about story structure. So another good example is Captain America, the films. The first one, what is it? Steve Rogers is feeble. He is weak, but he's heroic on the inside. He proves himself a good moral character, so they give him super soldier serum. He becomes powerful and heroic. He supports his country. He fights the Nazis. He wins. Yay, America. Captain America 2, it turns out the government he's been working for the whole time has been corrupted from the inside out, and he goes rogue and is now working against what he thought was legit. And then Captain America 3 is Civil War. He refuses to sign the papers and work in tandem with these foreign governments and becomes a criminal. His whole arc puts him against the system that he once loved. It's really interesting writing that he's still the hero the whole time. Then they do Brie Larson. They do the Marvels. What other? They have a bunch of shows I never watch. I'm not going to watch any of them. Echo or something, and it's just the
writing just all went to crap. I mean,
let me simplify it for you, and then we'll read some more super chats. Iron Man, he's got power, but he's a dick. He learns to become a hero and he does the right thing. Thor, very powerful and heroic, but overly arrogant, loses his power to learn a lesson. Captain America, weak, proves himself as a hero, becomes powerful. In the end, they overcome evil and they become the heroes they were meant to be. Captain Marvel. Brie Larson was always strong. She's super powerful, but a man has put an inhibitor on her, holding her power back and told her, I'm not kidding, check your emotions. Stop getting so emotional. In the end, she overcomes the inhibitor chip to discover her true power and defeat the man. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the man is not a bad guy. He kind of is, I guess.
It's all just
weird
fantasies by women that have horrible opinions
that women don't want to watch, and neither do men.
Yeah.
All right, we'll grab some super chats. We got Lars Job says the opening scene from Saving Private Ryan when it got quiet after old men were sobbing in the theater.
That was an amazing scene. That whole them landing on the beaches in Normandy is so powerful. Wow, it's amazing.
Philip Booth says my mother took her own life just over a month ago. Phil, you voiced my take on the subject, and it was your music that helped me keep my sanity and composure. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate hearing it, man. I'm glad to hear that it helped, man.
Sorry to hear about your mom, brother.
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
The deplorable Mrs. Drake said, I have a prank idea. Trump magnets on cars at Harris rallies. Also, you got to get Estee Palti on for great Kamala impersonation. She's great. What would happen if you... I don't recommend anybody do that.
Yeah, don't. I think that would be like vandalism.
Well, they're just magnets, though, so it's like they can be taken off, but someone else will vandalize the car. No. All right, here we go.
It's a good social experiment.
Yeah, but don't cause trouble. We're not. I don't like nuisance streamers. You know what I mean? Like people. It's dude. I got to tell you, man. I've been looking at the front page of YouTube because we've been getting featured and I'm getting messages and stuff, and I appreciate it. But I look at some of this stuff that's recommended on the podcast side, and I'm like, YouTube is a hive of scum and villainy. Like, no joke. The things that I got no answers for anybody. There's a video right now where it's like, it's just absolute fabrication, claiming that I'm feuding with the Young Turks and they're feuding with me, and we're not. And it's like they edit it in such a way to make it seem like seriously, you can take clips and then put them out of context. It's just, there's so much fake craziness. It's nuts.
I saw a video. It was Tim Pool destroys David Pakman, and it's like 5 years old. I was like,
Right.
what?
And it's a new video.
Yeah, it's a video from like 8 days ago or something. I was like, what in the hell?
It's because
I don't know why it showed up.
the space has become hyper saturated. And now what people are doing is they're looking at search terms, and Tim Pool in the search is a super high SEO thing right now.
You know, Elon's changing about Twitter's algorithm for paying out. It's less about trash content. It's going to be more about having premium people responding. I don't know. It's less about engagement farming. So that's because I think people are engaging farming.
I got so sick of that on X.
Like, what do you think of this? And it'd be a picture of a llama.
Every dumb.
And what pisses me off is when I would troll, people would accuse me of engagement farming. And I'm like, I'm not doing this for money. I'm
just doing it for fun.
No, but I wouldn't ask a question like,
there are certain accounts that are just, that's what they do.
They ask the question.
They ask, or they make certain statements which just are designed for engagement.
But when I troll, it's not for money. I've always trolled. If I
You've done it for free.
Just regenerate.
You're a good man.
I put something like I support. I'm pro-choice. I support abortion. You know, liberals are making the future conservative, and I respect them for doing it. Things like that, and it's meant to be facetious because I don't actually like these things. But I'm trying to make the point that if liberals keep sterilizing their kids and getting abortions, the future is going to be conservative. And then people are like, you're just engagement baiting, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, it's called an opinion. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm on Twitter posting my statements. Get out of here. Leave me alone. Although now they're saying the pay is going to be even better and premium, content. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, full disclosure, because I posted my whole payout sheet. I get about 10 grand a month off X. And I don't really consider myself that active.
Yeah, now they need playlists. Once they can put playlists on there.
I reckon it is getting better from that side of it.
They need a videos tab.
Yeah.
They need like you go to Twitter and it's got, following whatever, you click videos and the whole page should wipe and there's going to be 10 videos.
Yep.
Just like YouTube. That's what they need.
Playlists on the
Because we're streaming right now on X, but it's really hard to find.
Yeah, my stuff gets lost. My live streams on X right now are getting lost.
But even videos, one of the changes that they made on X, which was weird, was when they got rid of the views.
The live viewer count and switched it.
Well, that, and then also just when you publish videos, and you know how when somebody re-embedded your video, your views carried along, so you could see how many views your video actually got across the platform.
Yeah.
Now there's no way, and it gives you that inflated numbers like views versus whatever it actually.
It'd be cool if your view count was there, and then in parentheses it showed the other view count of like all of them together. The embeds.
I really dislike that they converted concurrent viewership into total viewership.
I know.
Because there's people who are like, I get way more views on X, so I'm going to start streaming there. And I'm like, that's
delusional. You got to know how to read it.
And what that means is like over an hour, if 1,000 people come in for a minute and leave, it's going to say that you have 1,000 viewers.
Having said all that, I prefer I very much prefer the Elon Twitter 2.0. Like before I was walking on eggshells. I wouldn't say anything.
Elon, it would be so based if there was a video page that when you go to it, you get a homepage feed of all the videos from the people you follow. And when you click it, it shows you like 10 videos, and then you can scroll down, and it's like rows of 5, just like YouTube. That would make X massively viable in the video space. And the videos are already being hosted. They're already there. They're just not easy to find.
They might be like, well, it's going to cost us a lot of money because they haven't all that benefit, but they're already there. But
maybe because more people would start uploading.
Yeah, big
videos.
time.
But you're going to get more advertisers then. True. More ad space, maybe they need to crank up their ad sales before they can increase inventory.
To launch, basically.
I think it would be so awesome if you could scroll Twitter like YouTube. Like it had. Imagine if you opened the Twitter app and you swiped left.
It had an option,
and it was a video feed like YouTube.
It's a good idea.
Because
I do feel like generally going in the right direction.
Agreed.
That stuff is a bit slow.
They're treating it like Shorts and TikTok. That when you play a video, you swipe up to watch the next video. I don't know. It's okay, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, vertical videos are like catching fire right now.
Yeah.
A lot of
well, one of the crazy things is a lot of people are heavily prioritizing shorts over their previous content, and YouTube is too, and it's going to burn down the industry.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that in the car yesterday driving.
There was a period Instagram was doing that, like where it was just giving you heaps of followers, subscribers.
Really,
just by the reels. But then all of a sudden, it stopped.
I think the way things are going now with hypersaturation and the death of the corporate press, it's going to get weird. Because as I mentioned, there's already these fake, like you mentioned it, like Tim and David Pakman, it's like a super old video. It's like, what? We're talking to David Pakman about coming on the show. I've criticized him, but I don't think I've said anything harsh about him in the past.
And then add that AI videos on top of all that.
Yep.
It is going to get super weird. It's already getting weird.
Having like an AI.
Like you don't know what you can believe.
Just pump it out.
Dude, the crazy thing too is that people make fake debates. Like this is crazy. What I've never seen this stuff before because I don't largely pay attention to the default homepage. I follow who I follow. I watch the videos that I watch, and then I go here and I'm like, I never said that. And it's like Tim Pool debating some guy, and it's like not my argument at all. It's edited to make a different argument.
Oh, that's cheap.
But there's tons of it. It's crazy.
I mean, Pink Trip's doing it, but he's overtly doing
jokes are fine. I'm just saying, but it's not even about me. I'm just saying about me because I was looking at it, but I'm seeing other people too, and it's just like. There's a video of someone, what was I looking at? It's like Destiny insults Cenk Uygur, and it's like crazy. And then it's just like two completely unrated clips made to look like they're talking to each other. Yes. And people are in the comments being like, I can't believe he would say that. And I'm like, guys, that Cenk is like 100 pounds lighter, dude. That's not what he looks like, right? But they don't know that. It's crazy.
Yeah, if it was not monetizable,
that's why live is everything. Because live is live.
You don't think they're going to be able to do this live?
Oh, dude, they're
AI.
I'm saying right now, live is safe. Yeah. But that's what I was complaining about earlier. Like what they did was, I was having when I had that conversation with Laura Loomer. The conversation we had was, yes, the law does say that if you commit treason, you get the death penalty. So I agree with what Laura Loomer is saying that if someone commits treason, they should get the death penalty. That's not me saying I agree with the death penalty. That's not me saying I think there should be a death penalty. I'm agreeing with her that right now in the United States, as the law functions, this is what happens. They took that snip out of the whole thing and turned it into here's Tim Pool supporting the death penalty. Despite hours and hours of me debating against the death penalty, wanting it to be abolished, whatever, moratorium and all that stuff, because it's all fake. Whatever serves their narrative.
Isn't that, it's like more annoying when it's something like that. It just annoys. Like there's so many dumb shit I've said in my life that you could actually use. And probably if I look back at it now, I go, oh, crap, like I cringe over the fact that I said that. But when they take something, I was telling you before when you told me that, it's like there's one video of me went back, in 2016 or 17, standing in front of a crowd, and I'm wearing a kipper in my head because that's what I used to do. My original videos, I always wore a kipper, not because I was practicing, but it was to make the point because every time I went to a protest and it was Antifa, they would call me a Nazi, and they would scream Nazi, 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 and it was the best, visual, having like this little mini Jew being called, like clearly a Jew being screamed at as a Nazi. And then I went to this protest and I'm standing on the stage and I'm like, I look at the crowd, I go, forget about what they call you. I am the world's proudest Jewish Nazi. And I'm pointing to my kippah, showing like and behind us is Antifa. I'm making fun of them. And they just cut that little bit. And literally, it's not only YouTubers or whatever that were using it. It's like this thing that's repeated whenever a left-wing mainstream media, a new outlet in Australia writes about they'll write, Avi, who once proclaimed himself as the world's proudest Jewish Nazi, without any of the context that I was joking or being sarcastic.
So this is crazy. The left has created a false reality, and we know this, right? Because we break through it every day. But there's also points in which we don't realize. Like before I had met Ben Shapiro, I thought he was short.
Is he not short?
He's not short.
Bullshit.
I think he's like 5'8". No, he's like 5'8", 5'9". I think he's 5'8". So it's like he's what's average 5'9", something like that. So it's like when I first met him, I'm like a little bit shorter than I'm 5'10", 5'11" ish, maybe 5'10". Ben Shapiro's a little bit shorter than me, but like he's not short, and that's something that everybody believed. Everybody was saying Ben was short. Then I meet him, I'm like, oh, he's like average height.
I was thinking,
everyone claims that I'm short too.
It's because your voice is in a higher register.
No, I think that's because of our camera angles. Because when we do a live thing, like I'm tall for women, and I had so many people walk up to me and be like, I didn't realize how tall you were. No one has ever assumed I was short.
Well, because the way the tables are set up, we can't put the cameras. We could put them down lower if we put them in between the chairs.
I'm not. What's short then? I'm definitely short.
5'6",
5'6", and
when short starts.
I don't know.
5'5", 5'6", 5'5". I would consider short. I had a buddy.
I don't even know what I am.
I guess it depends on like if I think if you're like 5'7", 8'9", you're below average, but I wouldn't call that short. I guess maybe women might because they want 6 foot guys.
Well, like 5'5" is the average woman height. So if a man is 5'5", that's probably short. I'm 5'6", so I'm short. But like tall starts at like 6 foot.
Tall is like everyone else.
Well, how tall are you?
Short.
Yeah,
you're my height.
You guys are about the same height.
5'6".
It's short because the rest of the world is.
I thought you were like 6'3".
Yeah, I thought you were
from your
super
videos.
tall.
You're tall.
Yeah, because everyone thinks I'm big on my videos.
You're tall in
Camera
China.
angles. You
It's
guys
an
are
angle.
Right.
people.
So
A lot of people think that I'm tall because they only see me on stage or whatever.
Below, the
know what
cameras
we'll
make
do?
you look like a
I
giant.
wish I had a stage to walk around.
No. Let's remount the cameras lower than the table so everyone's looking up at us.
Oh my god, up the
No,
nose.
thank you. I
Looking
feel like
up
that'd be
my
so
nose.
Tim's a
unflattering.
giant.
Well, I thought when you were talking about your clips getting taken out of context, that we could build an artificial intelligence that can recontextualize video. Like if you feed a clip in, it can crawl the net and grab the original piece and feed you the rest of it. So people
Surely that's going to be the counter to all this. Like, surely there is going to be tools soon that help us solve the problem of AI because it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Whether it's completely fake or things taken out of context.
And if it's completely fake, it's like we cannot find the original video.
No,
for this
well,
in
it should just be
question.
able to pick up this is fake, and that. But you can't leave it to Meta because they're just everything's fake unless it suits their narrative.
Yeah, it can't be a private corporation. It
You
has
know-
to be
you
like
know
free
what-
software code license or
So
something.
this is another funny thing. Don't make jokes on the internet. You can never tell the truth, blah, blah, blah. There's a picture of me with Elijah Schaefer, and he's like 6 something. I don't know. He's like 6'3" or something. No, what is
He's
he?
pretty tall.
6'1"?
He's tall.
And so I'm just going to say it because I wasn't going to say it because I don't want to insult Dave Portnoy. But there are photos of Dave Portnoy with his arm around people and he's standing on his tippy toes because he's short. And so when Elijah asked to get a picture with me, I said, "You're going to make me look like I'm super short. I got to do what, Portnoy does." And they took the picture and posted it. And then everyone started acting like I was literally doing it unironically. And I was like, "Why did you post that?" I'm not trying to insult Dave now. Now I got to say it. And I feel like I'm being a dick to Dave Portnoy. And he's all right. I'm not trying to be mean to him.
Dave. Let's get him on the show.
I sometimes
one day.
stand on a chair when tall people come and take a photo with me. I literally pull up a chair and I stand next to them.
Dude,
You
Elijah
have like an
Schaefer.
apple crate. Didn't
never-
Tom Hanks do that in
I did.
the original Top Gun? There was like the romance scene, and they had him actually standing on.
They do that kind of stuff all the time.
And I love it. Like haters always they bag out my height. I'm like, I've been doing that my entire life. I don't. You got to find new shit.
So then when I posted this video, everyone went, "Oh, holy crap, Tim's actually pretty tall," because I'm like taller than everybody. I had to switch height flip, by the way. And they were like, "Wait, Tim's actually taller than everybody."
Andy can skate.
Yeah, they got really mad
super
about this one because this one
ripped.
got a ton of views.
Muscular that guy is.
Well, sure, but my point is, this is what I look like when you're not having the camera pointed down at me.
Sometimes people will they'll come up and they'll be like, they want to get a picture or whatever, or like when they come to meet and greets, they want to do the picture. And sometimes they'll like kind of lean down next to me and like stand up.
Is that the etiquette?
No, that's not the etiquette. That's that's
it's to
really
stand normal.
we are so
stand
different.
normal and the reason
We
you
are
should
so
stand normal is because I don't need you to like come down to my level. I'm completely fine with like myself.
So shout out to Ian Carroll, who's like a giant. I didn't know.
Oh, that dude's
massive.
There's so many of these
So
personalities.
humble.
Jordan Peterson is 8 feet tall. Matt Walsh is 8 feet tall. Charlie Kirk and Vosh are both 8 feet tall. So they come on the show and like, let's get a picture. And I'm like, come on, guys. Let me get some pictures with you guys while we're here.
Yeah,
You know?
make you look big. Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're gonna wrap things up. Smash the like button, subscribe, share the show with everyone you know. Leave us a good review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, and become a member at timcast.com. Because if you don't, well, then we just don't do the show, I guess. But I'm only half kidding. As a member, you make this show function, so we really do appreciate your support. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Avi, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, would love to. AviAcrossAmerica.com. Join me for the next month, or join me on X.
Right on.
Appreciate having.
It's
Thanks
great
for having me
you,
on,
man.
mate.
It's been a blast.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains, and you can find us on YouTube and Instagram and probably on Facebook. We have 3 new videos out, one for a song called Divine, one for a song called Let You Go, and one for a song called No Tomorrow. Go check those out. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime. Ian.
Ian Crossland and Avi, so good to meet you, man. I've been following your work for about 4 years, so it's great to see you in person, dude.
Appreciate it. I hope I didn't let you down.
No, it's fantastic, brother. And people are going to follow you on Twitter. It's at Ozrael Avi. It's OZRAELI.
What does that mean? Do you know what that means? Israeli Avi?
No. Is it like Israeli?
Australian Israeli.
Oh, nice.
Very controversial these days.
Ozraeli Avi. I like it. Well, I'm at Ian Crossland. Follow me. Follow me this weekend. I'll be going live tomorrow in the afternoon, most likely. Going to be streaming games and playing music. And that'll be on my YouTube channel and on Twitch at Ian Crossland. I'll see you there.
It's been so fun having you here. I hope people check out your interview on Sunday with what's going on in the Tenderloin District in San Francisco, because that place is crazy. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I am on this show most nights of the week. And follow me on Instagram at hannahclaire.b and on Twitter at hannahclaireb. Thanks for everything you guys do. Anyone dealing with the hurricane stuff, we're still thinking about you. Have a good night.
We will see you all this weekend with clips. We're going to have shorts up and all that fun stuff. We're back Monday, but we're going to see you all on Sunday in Newtown, PA. If you're going to be there, we hope to see you. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you then.